We will get started. Sorry for being a few minutes late. Once again, committee, thank you for being here, and the audience for being here. We have minutes from our last meeting.
Move their approval.
I have a motion for approval. I hear a second from Auditor. Any corrections or additions? Ms. Carter.
Yes, on item F, when I gave the EBO report, we discussed $1,800, and I submitted, the request was that I submit what the breakdown was, and I did that, and that's not a part of the minutes.
Okay. If you could just forward me a sentence that you'd like to be included, I'll be happy to.
Okay.
Any other corrections or additions? All in favor of the minutes as corrected, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, minutes carry. Open forum, Mr. Spears.
I have one speaker, Mr. Nathaniel Fountain.
Yes, good evening. I'm Nathaniel Fountain. I have a question about the vending machines. First, I'd like to say putting Coke machines and snack machines in the theater would be a good idea, and in the ballpark, because there's always going to be something going on. I'd like to ask, has the committee made a decision on what they're going to do with the Coke machines?
Part of our presentation.
Yeah, sir, we have I'm trying to find it on my schedule here. D on the action items, Maritime Park vending program. So are you going to be able to stick around for a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, we will bring that up at that point
Okay.
on vending, all vending in the park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being here, Mr. Fountain.
No more cards, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, it might be important.
Dr. Jones.
There's some guests here. It might be important to let them know that they may speak as the vending machine did on each item as it comes up.
Yeah. Anybody, unless you fill out a card and speak. And with that, we're going to go a little.
Sherry Mouton.
As this card just appeared, Sherry Mouton.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, everyone. I think that Dr. Jones just alluded to what was asked for us to wait to speak on the vending program.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mouton. We'll
Yes,
just
sir.
keep your card and feel free to come back up at that point.
Yes, sir.
We're going to go a little out of order. I have a couple people here that have other meetings, and I'm going to start with Jack Henderson, who is the designer of our plaque, and appreciate you being here if we have any questions for him. So I'm going to jump out of order a little bit, Dr. Jones, and calling you on the design committee.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Sir?
Do you want me to give a report?
Just on, is the plaque?
Mr. Henderson has an up-to-date recommendation for the plaque. And Ed Spears probably, do we have it on the?
It's in front of you.
It's in our packet.
It is in your package, and it was emailed to everyone yesterday after the committee changes, and this reflects the changes that were made at that time.
Basically, our committee approved it in concept. There was a little tweaking that we suggested, and we'd certainly open for further discussion.
Where is it going to go?
The
Men's room?
The proposal is for two plaques, one somewhere around the main entrance of the stadium in the general vicinity of the grand staircase, and a second one located on the amphitheater.
Mr. Henderson, did you have something to add, or you just wanted to see if any more changes?
No, sir. Based on the meeting yesterday, all my questions were answered. I was just here for backup if you had any questions.
Basically, we discussed the removal of titles such as Honorable and Mr. and Doctor and Reverend from the Board of Trustees. There was a discussion about where to place Admiral Fetterman's name. The other question was whether to, since we have a title there, to whether to call him Vice Admiral Fetterman. And I'm not sure. I hope that we don't have to make a decision of that. I've emailed Nancy Fetterman to ask her what she would recommend.
I thought you eliminated the titles.
Well, that we did sort of, except for Admiral Fetterman, but we can certainly do that. We eliminated the titles in the Board of Trustees.
And Mr. Chairman, after the committee asked to include that name, I went to the UWF material that was presented when they discussed the museum concept, and this was the exact wording on the official presentation that was presented by UWF.
You You mean Admiral Fetterman?
That's correct. Admiral John H. Fetterman.
Councilman Pratt.
I had two comments. First, I think we said loaned executive director tongue-in-cheek. I think executive director, just no one would understand the loaned. But
He's loaning us money, right?
I spoke about this yesterday, that I think that it's important to list the city council, the members of the various councils that were on the hot seat for this issue. Many of them got a lot more grief than I ever have, but I know there was plenty of grief to be given, and I think they deserve recognition beyond just being one line in this whole thing. That's my opinion, and if anyone else shares that opinion.
Can we make it a two-sided flag?
Ms. Carter.
That's the challenge. It's so big.
I too feel like Ed has long stopped being alone. He deserved the honor of being executive director. That's what he was. That's what he is. And I really would like to see the loan gone and just put executive. He really was that. That's my 2 cents. The other thing is, I agree with Ed that in keeping with UWF and the spirit of what began, and especially since, some people passed away to start the vision, I would honor whatever UWF has and Nancy Fetterman request. She's here to represent him, and we want to make his spirit and his vision come alive. So to me, whatever she says, or I would yield to UWF, whatever they say. And to Ms. Pratt, all of you guys deserve stars. Many of you were from day one. And I don't know, how do you balance out a star? But I think the fact that everybody's represented, I think that is wonderful. And so I don't have any feelings either way, but I do understand that people caught fire, but I think everybody caught fire. We played a role from the beginning to the end. If it were not for each one of us, I don't believe this happened. So I'm okay with it being consistent in the body, because that's where we were, one body, the names.
Oh, I meant there's the line up here for the city council. I'm thinking
Oh, where's
to
that at?
include
Oh.
Mr. Gerald, who's in the back, his name.
I'm sorry.
Because he had to vote to do this,
Oh.
and,
I'm
that,
totally okay with that. I thought you was talking about
not
the names.
separate us
You
out.
thought you were talking about what?
I thought you was talking about the names, how they were,
No, you don't need to separate the council members on the board. I meant to list the city council,
Right.
Oh,
the people who have and have never.
And I'm gonna address that. I want to see if there are any other comments. So I'm going to go back to Councilman Pratt. I agree with you. I was hoping Mr. Spencer was going to be here, and I assume he's coming. Does anybody know? But because I know he's the one that wrote that out. I saw a version a long time ago. It had the council on there, and there's some reason, unless somebody, Dr. Jones, maybe you know why they're not there. Yes, sir.
Actually, at our committee meeting, I think Mr. Spencer did not favor putting the city council on there. Is that correct, Dr.?
My understanding was he didn't want to put it on. There is the question of the length,
Right.
But I think creative people can deal with that. But he had a bit of reservation because we would then be honoring those who opposed it. But my feeling is that they were contributing members of the discussion, and that their questions helped shape this project. Even if they worked against it, it still, I think, helped us make a better project. And as Ms. Dubuisson said yesterday, the ultimate irony would be to have their name on it.
Mr. McCormick.
What I got out of the meeting yesterday was that if we wanted to have the city council members on there, that we ought to have a separate plaque and have them on there as the city council members, not to make this thing so big and onerous that, one, you couldn't hang it, and two, you get lost in it. So that was kind of, as I understand it, sure, if people want to do it, let's have a city council plaque and have it next to this one with the city council members on it.
Right, and I'll be honest, and I do see Mr. Gerald's in the back, Councilman Gerald's, and I don't see any other council people besides who's up here. But I sure hate them to see that, and that we did not include them. Like we were picking and choosing. That's just my personal opinion. I don't want to usurp Dr. Jones by any means. Y'all had a committee meeting, and this is what you're surfacing to the board, and the board has a right to vote on what they want to vote on. But, I'd hate for somebody, look like we're trying to grandstand because city council did do a lot of work. Dr. Jones, did you have something else on that?
I would just make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve this as designed with the omission of loaned in the word loaned executive director.
Ms. Scott,
I just want
do I hear a second on that motion? So we're going to,
I'll second.
all right, we have a second. So we do have a motion on the floor. Discussion, Ms. Scott.
I just want to talk briefly about where the loaned, where that came from, because it actually started out that we should recognize Ed for exactly what he is, executive officer, executive director. The loan part came in as looking down 25, 50 years down the road, that little piece of information that somebody doesn't know. They said, well, why is Mr. Spears a loan executive director? And so that story would be told within that. So it wasn't an attempt or an effort to downplay his role in any way. It was just part of slipping in a part of his bit of historical significance, so to speak.
Roger. I'm sorry, Ms. Scott. What was the end of that? It was significant that he was loaned.
The loaned executive director was just a part of a historical significance thing, or kind of like a trivia, like 50 years down the road. Why is this to say loaned executive director, and then somebody could tell the story, down the road? It wasn't meant to.
Be available in 20 years to tell the story.
Right.
Mr. Spears said he too will be available at that point. Ms. Carter.
Well, let's just find out how Ed feels about it, since we're talking about you like you're not in the room. What's your thoughts on it, Ed?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Carter, thank you for the question, and seriously, thank you all for the honor of just the thought of being included on this. But in a desire not to be self-serving, I would prefer to stay out of the conversation.
You're just being humble.
That's it from the-
Well, then it goes to a vote. So either way, you won't feel bad. That's all I want to know, because you're really valuable to us. So if you're all right with that, we'll make that decision. And my second comment is regarding the Pensacola Council. We're at the end of this, and this is probably going to outlive me and my children. And it's just a plaque. But it means a lot to a lot of people in Pensacola. Like, this would be here beyond us. And I don't know if it's a big deal to anybody if we just put the council people on a different plaque. It's not going to hurt anything. It's another cost. But I would hate to make another misstep and not put them there. It really is, to me, a real small thing to just smooth things. We're almost at the end. Another plaque really, is it going to cost a lot of money? It's going to be a big hardship. What is the cost? But I'd rather do that than not do it.
Don't we have one of those two for the price of one?
Councilman Johnson.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm going to add on to what Ms. Carter said. This thing's got an awful lot of information, a lot of names, et cetera. I'd rather see a separate plaque. And I think we might need to, the council's going to have an opportunity to be recognized. And maybe we should have that conversation at council, how they want to do it. Just throwing it out there. This thing, again, has got a lot of names on it. I'd like to just see maybe we take that discussion up at city council. Maybe we can have a day-long conversation about that. Going back and forth and, very contentious. But, I'd like to see us not put the council on there. Maybe we could have that discussion, like I said, a day-long discussion at city council. And as far as, Mr. Spears, I appreciate what he's done, but I have heard from some that said, that he would be the only paid employee on this plaque. I promised I would mention that, and I'm doing that. Is that, his efforts are appreciated, but I just wanted to bring that forward. Thank you.
What is the normal on that, Councilman Johnson, as far as employees?
I don't know. I was thinking about that before I made the comments, and I remember the Sanger, I believe the Sanger plaque at the front door of the Sanger Theater on the right has some some former employees of City Hall. Mr. Kobe, I believe, is on that, but don't quote me on that. But I know that issue did come up. It was brought to me. Some people thought it was inappropriate. And again, don't shoot the messenger,
Yeah.
but just bringing that forward. Thank you.
Councilman Pratt.
On that, I think that even at the libraries or wherever, I think usually the city manager was acknowledged, and that was sort of my reasoning for putting Mr. Spears on there, because he's not really just the city employee who helped with this, but he has been the executive director of this project, and in the same sense that a city manager would have been. I do believe that the city council should be recognized. I've always said to people that on the city council, most of the things I'm going to do are never going to, this is pretty much this city council, the last city council, and the previous city council, this is that thing that they'll be able to point to. And so I think that it's important to recognize them. But I think it might, yesterday we had 2 pages that we condensed into one. And if we don't discuss this city council issue here, then it'll get awkward, because here we have the city of Pensacola and then just a note for city council, and then a separate thing for city council would be odd. And I mean, there could be a simple design change of moving this part over, the part that has the mayors and the city council, onto that other plaque. So ultimately, it might mean a design change for this if we do a city council plaque.
Well, if we do a city council plaque, maybe they'll put on their plaque, Community Maritime Park Associates Align. Because I think Mr. Henderson's going to address this for us, I think. Yes, sir.
Well,
Mr. Henderson.
Ed, if you'll remember, we went back to the first iteration of this. It had everybody's name on it, and it was so, I know nobody can see this, but it was so busy, and so it was almost to the point where you'd have to take lunch to sit down and read it, and I don't think anybody would sit there and read that. So it gets to the point where, keep in mind, whatever you put on here, you want it so people in passing can read it, and not very many people are going to stop and read everything that's on there. Matter of fact, by adding what we did yesterday, we do save some money as far as consolidating, but we are making it bigger, so therefore that means it's more time for people read from top to bottom. Just a point.
Thanks, sir. We've got a motion on the floor. Ms. Johnson, I appreciate your comments, and if you will relay that, if this motion were to pass the city council, that possibly them doing a plaque.
I'm sorry.
Just relay that kind of, this committee certainly feels they need to be recognized, and maybe they need to look at a plaque as well. If this motion passes, we haven't seen it yet.
So it would be a separate plaque from this, something different.
Right. I think that's what you were saying in your comments, that if city wanted to do one, they would do a plaque,
Okay.
I think. Mr. Murray.
Point of clarification, Mr. Jones' motion remove the loan.
Correct.
Thank you.
And leaving Admiral and his correct things. Any more questions? I'm going to yes, Ms. Carter.
So I'm concerned about minutes and the legacy, so that the council understands. Can we just make sure we have in our minutes that we wanted to do a plaque, but we want to defer it to council because it's about them? I don't want it to get lost at some point in minutes, and then they say, well, why didn't you guys do a plaque? And we can say we said it at the meeting and it was too busy for
We didn't want to design their plaque, so we're going to let them do their plaque.
Yeah. Well, and we want them to be happy with it too, because we don't mind. It would be their plaque acknowledging them, just like him Ed deciding. I just want to make sure it goes on
Sure.
record.
Yeah, when's the deadline on this? I mean, I'd like to have this discussion if it's, and I'd like to hear from Dr. Pratt, but maybe have this discussion at council soon. I mean, I know we're supposed to open in 15 days for our first baseball game, but I'm sure this plaque won't be, will this plaque be ready then? I mean,
No, so we're looking at for the June 9th celebration.
June 9th.
They need 4 weeks. We're giving them 6, and we're going to turn this in as soon as this vote.
6 weeks would be ideal.
Maybe we could get this on the next council meeting to discuss and hammer out how the council would like to handle it. So with Mr. Jones, Dr. Jones's motion, that is with excluding the council people, the way I understand it. And Dr. Pratt, maybe we could have that discussion at the next council committee of the whole, see how they want to do that. Is that
I guess I'll say that I'm going to oppose just because I think that the design would make sense if we had one consistent design. So, just in terms of credit for the council would move off here and onto that or something like that. So, but I mean, it's a valid way to do it is to bounce it to the council as well.
Well, if it's, and I appreciate your comments there, Councilman Pratt. If they decide to go that direction, and we'll call Mr. Henderson, see if there's any way at that point to see where the plaque is in that design, we'll remove it. All right, we got a motion. I'm going to move on. We got other items here. No more discussion. All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Jones. We're going to jump back. We have one other item I want to take out of order, and that issue might be over because I think he's left the building. Tom is gone. Is he gone?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We asked Tom Mulroy, the city's risk manager, to come to give you a very brief update on the acquisition of insurance for the Maritime Park and the stadium. And basically what he was going to cover is that insurance has been secured. We do have the binded coverage for both property insurance and general liability at the rates that are required by our use agreement and our lease with the city of Pensacola. So we are fully insured. Those went into effect as of 12:01 a.m. on the 19th.
Who is the carrier?
That's exactly where I was going.
I'll have you an answer and I'll email it to everyone.
Well,
I'd
I'd like to know their rating.
Yeah, I'm
sure that being a government.
probably going to, this will get me in trouble, but I've been in trouble before. I'm pretty sure it's Fisher Brown, and I talked to.
That's the agent.
That's the agent.
Oh, the underwriter. I'm not sure, but I'm sure it's a reputable thing, but we can certainly find out.
I'm sure by statute they're required to have certain levels. I was just curious.
Right.
Part
Was that
of
your
our
same
due
question,
diligence to make
Councilman
sure
Johnson?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. So.
Matter of fact, I think it was, I'm not going to guess anymore.
Florist Mutual of Indiana, assets $3.
I will get you that answer and email it to the board.
I think it's the city does a lot of stuff, and I'm sure I think we're in good shape. All right, we're going to jump back to the agenda and go into action items and start with the multi-use stadium grand opening. And Mr. Baldwin.
Property and 12 for liability.
Okay, thanks. With that email, get it out of mine as well.
Everybody knows Mr. Bruce Baldwin, president of Pensacola Baseball, highest paid person in minor league baseball. We've got to say it, AA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. On April 5th, as you know, is the opening day for Community Maritime Park featuring the Blue Wahoos and the Montgomery Biscuits. Thus far, ticket sales for the entire year have exceeded expectations, and we look forward to continuing to move tickets, but more at hand to opening day. We have contacted either by direct phone call or left messages with all current City Council, past City Council, all current CMPA board members, past board members, as well as mayors, current and past. And the past goes back to John Fogg, Escambia, Santa Rosa, and other dignitaries of the area, representatives, councilmen, state senators, etc., along with several other representatives that have played an integral part in this, such as Ed Gray, Nancy Fetterman, etc., Jerry Pate. Those people have been reached out to, as indicated, either by direct contact or left a voicemail. What we've asked them to do is to join us on April 5th, opening day, and they will receive instructions on where to go, what to do, and what's going on. And that's about where we are right now. There will be a recognition pregame with 2 speakers only, and we will reach out and tell all of those people, or those people that are speaking. So that is that for right now. Also, Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have something for you.
It's not certified, is it?
On behalf of Mrs. and Mr. Studer, we'd like to give you this.
good news.
Our first rent check, ladies and gentlemen. I can't.
Here you go.
That is
There
a
you
rent
go.
check for the entire year.
Wow.
Oh,
In advance, in full, and
One
we've
hun-
included the taxes on that as well.
$188,000. Thank you,
Wow.
Mr. Baldwin.
Wow.
Thank you, but thank Mr. and Mrs. Studer for that. That was their idea, and they felt that that was important to deliver that and make sure it was taken care of as quickly as possible. So,
Well, I appreciate it. I did read that wrong. I thought it's $188,000 paid in full for the rent. We still have some
we have a
few days here to get it open, but I feel good about it at this point. So we'll take it and
I do
cash
too.
it fast.
Well, wait a minute now. I got to go make that deposit first.
Thank you very much, and I want to say on behalf of the board, and I might be cutting you off, I don't know if you're finished, but I'll say it right now since you already talked about ticket sales. I want to say on behalf of the board, the excitement that your organization has generated in this community is overwhelming. And the fact that I know you've sold out the first, the second, third, fourth game, and working forward, sold out season tickets is amazing. And again, I want to give you a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thus far, we have sold approximately 230,000 tickets. If we sold out every game, our maximum capacity is 350,000. If you recall, in the lease agreement, there is 50 cents and another 50 cent surcharges on tickets that get activated over a certain number. We've exceeded that certain number thus far. And so the balance of rent due will be at the end of the season based on the number of tickets that we sell. And so right now, you've already got another check coming. But we want to thank everybody for their assistance, their cooperations, especially this board, past and present, as well as other members that have helped us along the way. Huge thank you to Hoare Construction. They have been outstanding. They have been remarkable. In all of my years in this business, they might be one of the top 1 or 2 construction companies I've ever worked with. And I've been doing this for almost 30 years. So when you see them, give them a hearty pat on the back, despite what that curb might look like once in a while. They have rushed through everything and have been a joy to work with, as well as all city members that we have worked with and CMPA members, past and present. It has been quite a journey, and we're very proud to be part of the community, and we're very proud that the community Maritime Park could be the beginning of remarkable economic advancement, as I describe it when I do speaking engagements throughout the 2 county areas. So if there are any other questions or any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Ms. Carter.
Except for Ms. Carter.
That's okay. I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah, it was either that or you're going to give me a call.
First, I want to thank you for your efforts to reach out to the community at large and the jobs.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. And I am excited that we are going to be one community Maritime Park, even though I know you guys got to run baseball. I'm excited that your representative, Shelley Yates, she's coming to meetings, and her presence means a lot. And that was very sensitive of you as a team, as a president, to make sure that we look to this community like a whole park. And I want to give you a hats off for seeing that and doing some proactive behavior. That's number one. And I just can't tell you, and Jackie's in the back, how much we appreciate the behind-the-scenes work that Jackie and Quint and all the people in Student Group have done. They have been the strength of making this vision happen. And Jackie, thank you. Tell Quint and miss you.
I don't know if everybody knows Jackie Neese, but that is Quint's administrative assistant. And if it wasn't for her, Quint wouldn't know whether he was landing in L.A. or Chicago. So
Thank you.
thank you very much. And we had a Ms. Carter, as you mentioned, we had a wonderful turnout when we went to the Little Rock Baptist Community Church, and thankfully we have found some remarkable people. We ran across a young man that's a graduate of University of Arkansas, Pine Bluff, who had a degree in recreation management and didn't know what to do with it. Well, guess what? He now has a job with us. So, and we found a lot of qualified people. So we're very thankful for your guidance and our chats that we've had over the time. So anything else? If not, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ball, once again. We've come a long way since the first time you came to one of these meetings, and I appreciate everything y'all have done.
He's dressed up more, too.
Hey,
Ooh.
At least I'm okay to pose naked in a calendar.
Ooh.
I learned a long time ago not to banter with Mr. Baldwin. But Dr. Jones did pose naked in the calendar, but it's for a good cause, for a hospice.
He was cute.
All right. Nothing else on that. We're going to move on. And I want to say again on behalf of this board, I appreciate y'all's inclusion of everybody for the opening game, besides just ticket holders. And it was nice. As a matter of fact, Miss Neese's daughter has been working on, called me about some names and made sure the people I thought we wanted included were included. And I appreciate that. You want to say anything, Jack? No. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the Parks and Amphitheater Use and Rental Program. Dave, did you want to address anything with that? Oh, yes, presentation. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here. So much that I want to tell you, but it's a short amount of time. But Kim Carmody, sitting to my left here, is going to walk you through a presentation on where we're at. I'm just wanted to tell you that we have done, in my mind, and speaking directly about the staff, they have done a great job, fantastic job, pulling all of this together over the last several months and getting us to this point where we're making this presentation to you. The presentation is not as detailed as maybe some of you would like, but quite frankly, I can tell you that we have every detail covered. We're very specific in all areas that you've required us to look at. There will be some discussion, I think, on the vending. There is a small hitch with the vending that we've been aware of for some time, and that is that the city does not currently have an ordinance in place that allows for kiosks or vendors in public spaces, whether it's in the downtown area or, in this particular case, whether it's the Maritime Park. But I want to assure you that we have a full and complete detailed plan relating to kiosks and vendors that we'll certainly share with you in the future. And at some point in the very near future, I would like to work with Mrs. Carter and Dr. Jones in meeting with a large number of people in the community who want to talk about being vendors, because we can be very specific about what they need to do to become vendors for the Maritime Park in the near future. Having said that, though, we want to take you through everything else relating to the park, particularly the community events and the parking and other aspects. I, too, want to add my appreciation to the Wahoos. They've been a great partner to work with over the last couple months. They've been mentors as well as cheerleaders, and it's been great working with Bruce and his staff, particularly Shelley. And they've helped us in a number of ways, and I'd like to think that we've helped them in a number of ways too, particularly when we're talking about community events for the park. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Kim Carmody, who has done yeoman's work on this project, and sitting next to her is Jeff, and he's going to run through the presentation.
Okay, I'm not very good at sitting and talking, but we'll try this. This is similar to the presentation, almost identical to the one that some of you saw on Monday. We did make some tweaking, so we'll go through that. In your packet that we've handed out, it includes the PowerPoint presentation we're about to go through, the parking information, and the event information. The first picture is an overview shot of the park itself, and as you can see, it is coming along nicely. I believe that was from last week. That was the aerial from last week. Click that again. This is the diagram of the park itself and how we're going to segregate out some of the park areas. You'll notice the top left-hand corner, which is actually identified for future development. That will actually be where we will do our community markets. Below that, on the far corner, forgot my glasses, is the festival grounds, and then next to that is the amphitheater. And those will be useful to you as we go through this, as we identify where each of these events that we're going to be having will be held. So that kind of take a little picture of that in your mind's eye. This is the events. This is the events we've identified that we are going to be, the blue are the ones that we will be hosting. The BW is actually the Blue Wahoo's Games, so you can see there's a little difference. Most of our events are going to be weekend events this year. A couple of them, we will have the Pensacola Bayside Community Market. That will be almost every Saturday and Sunday. We will, of course, have the grand opening on the 9th of June. And then we will have a Blast from the Past music series that will start in June and go through September. That will include vendors, car shows, motorcycle shows, community markets, and then performers. And that includes July, August, September, and October. This is just a shorter version of what I just showed you. It just kind of consolidates it a little bit more. It goes through it. There's a couple of things that are repetitive. We will do movies in the park, and we'll do several concert series once we obtain sponsorship. This is our fees that we proposed on Monday. We did add one item to that, which is the back of the house fee. We had neglected to put that in there. But as you notice, for nonprofits, there is going to be a 20% discount, as well as the amphitheater fencing, police, public works, fire, EMT, and cleanup fees. Those will be at cost to the individual who will be leasing or renting for the event. In your packet, which is the event packet, this is the page numbers, and most of you have kind of seen it, but I really want to bring your attention to this little handout right here. This is a shortened version of everything that's in that packet. We call it a teaser, but what it does is it identifies all the events that we've actually identified that we're going to host, either by event or festivals. And then on the back of it is a quick overview of pricing, as well as a point of contact. In the packet itself, that includes promoter information, some statistics. We will mail this out to local promoters, event planners, festival planners, to generate an interest in our venue. It has guidelines. They will all have to go through a special event permitting process, but that is detailed in the packet itself. Does anybody have any questions about the event portion of this? Megan. I don't know who recognizes.
I was just going to ask about the back of the house pricing. I recall that when we as the CRA were asked to front the money, that many of these groups came and told us it cost them $10,000 to rent trucks for their events. And so part of the idea behind when I ended up making the motion to give the money was the idea that we would be able to give incentives for these festivals to step up early to help pay down the loan back to the CRA, and then they would be able to get reduced rates. But it's interesting that it's only $500 then to rent the back of the house, which, that's a great savings. They got a great deal out of it. But to some extent, how are we going to be able to ever give the money back to the CRA?
Well, actually, to rent the amphitheater, it's $1,000. So if you're renting the amphitheater and the back of the house, it's $1,500 for an 8-hour time frame. Yeah. So you don't want to charge more for the back of the house than you do for the front of the house. Yeah.
But do you have any ideas for any sort of incentive program to try to get these groups to give some money up front to then get a reduced rate over the
Not
years?
at that time. The discussion has come up, and it's been kind of bantered around like a beach ball. There's no real solution at this point, but it will continue to be in discussion within the team. And as soon as we come up with a really good, viable option, we'll definitely present it.
Thank you.
My question dealt with the events itself. I'm just curious as to who you work with to come up with the events. I mean, where did these ideas come from?
Any specific ones you're looking at?
No, nothing specific. I just want to know how the ideas were generated and who you might have reached out to or not reached out to.
I'm going to ask for Kim's help on this, but clearly what's happened so far, because of the time frame, the quickness of your RFP and the turnaround and our submittal, we've done most of the programming at this point, we being the Department of Neighborhood Services. We've also been in touch with people in the community who have approached us and said, hey, we would like to try to do this and that. So there are people in the community that we're working with. We have also met with several promoters, and you're going to help me with who they are. And they have expressed their interest in, okay, we want to start looking at bringing in some venues for the amphitheater. And we're all for that. We're waiting for them to return to us with their ideas and what events they want to try to do, and we're ready, stand ready to work with them on making those events happen. A number of people have approached us, but nothing specific has come back yet. And I just want to make sure this is really, really clear, not only to the board, but to, if this is going out to the public. If you have an idea, you have an interest, you want to do something in this park, come see us. It's not as if we know all the activities and programs that can be done. We need other people to step forward and say, I'm interested in trying this. So if you're a promoter, you're a local resident, and you've got an idea for an event or an activity, we'd love to talk to you.
I guess I just wanted to know from the design committees meetings that we've had, there was a list of groups and associations and the organizations that expressed interest, and I wanted to know how that information from the design committee would be transferred over to you. I mean, things like Picara, some of the Soul Fest, the Arts Festivals, some of those other events, how those individuals, because they've already come to us once and expressed an interest, how do they get involved? Other than, I know they can always call you, but we've gone through this process where we have identified quite a number of organizations who are interested in utilizing the grounds and facilities.
Can I?
Yes, please.
What has happened is, and we have been in talks with quite a few individuals in the community and outside the community. We cannot give any information to them specifically of pricing and, of course, the venue packet that you have in front of you. That will go out to all those groups. Those are the questions they've asked us, and so we've identified it into one big packet. And then all they have to do is fill it out, and we can start the meeting and the talks. But the initial stage is to get this passed so that we can actually start those talks and actually sign those contracts and get those schedules on our calendar.
Ms. Carter did provide me with a list of people which you have contacted, and I will pass those on to you, and we can discuss it further at a different venue.
I guess what I'm looking at is some dates that have already filled, that you've already got filled with some, and these look like great things. I'm really looking forward to them. But then I'm wondering what's left for the other individuals and groups who like to get involved and host their events as well, because all of these dates are the weekends and they're booked all the way through the end of the year.
But they are not filled in all three areas. If you'll remember, like the community markets, that will only be in section 1. That leaves open the festival grounds and the amphitheater area. Some of the events are going to be evenings and early mornings. So there are time slots available. I just couldn't necessarily put that information on a smaller calendar. But there are still openings in the calendar, but I did have to have something. I mean, we want to get it out to information. We want people in the park. We want them enjoying the park. And as people come forward, then we will definitely get them on the calendar. And I have on the calendar several groups, which I can't mention because there is no contract with them, that are going to be on the calendar and on the master calendar. But there is no signed contract at this time.
Ms. Carter.
I want everybody to turn back to this page here, because something that I learned from sitting down with Kim that I want the board to be aware of, which we can help bring these groups together, is she had to give us something Juanita, and she used the resources that she could to give us the calendar. But if you look at these other community markets, festival grounds, and amphitheater, they are all opportunities that are open that she's sitting down right now with that group that I gave you and you know, creative minority entities. It just takes a little bit more time, and she promises that, you know, we got to get this passed first, and they got to get the authority and move on. But that should be happening quickly, that you'll see the events increase quickly. It's just that right now she had to do something to get us something so that we could get this passed. But I think that as a board, we're going to stay on top of the inclusion issue, the minority issue. She's had a ton of people come to her, and you know, sat down with her and Dave. They really are working hard, and they understand the importance of inclusion, is my feeling.
Oh, no, I don't doubt that
Dr.
at all.
Bolden.
It's just a question.
Just a point of information for the dates that have just for a point of information, for the dates that have rental on, that means that's open for rental?
No, that's someone I'm in negotiations with at this point in time.
Okay.
Ms. Carter, Ms. Scott, are you finished? All right, Kim, go ahead.
So any more questions on the event portion of it? Okay. The next one is the parking. This is the map that DIB has sent out and will also go public, newspapers and other websites. You will, that is, basically this is 2,000 parking spaces we've identified for the Blue Wahoo's parking as well as special event parking. The next page is actually the name of the parking and how many spaces are in those spaces, and then how far it is from the stadium itself.
I have a question about the parking. Kim, I'm sorry. Okay. You've been with me with 2 vending workshops, and just so the board knows, because of that, we have a lot of people interested in transportation for people from the parking lots to the actual theater, the stadium. And so this is what they've been waiting for, to figure out how to get in the mix. So Kim, this is what they've been waiting for, so they can see how they can partake in the economic possibilities associated. And Kim's going to be working with every one of those vendors to see how they can fit. And I'm really excited about that, because we end up having a whole bunch of people who are in transportation, way more than I ever thought. And so there's a lot of people quite interested, and that's a good thing about the vending workshops that we've been doing.
Definitely. The second, the traffic control, we're not going to read this. I'm going to show you a map, and I'm going to explain what was on that. The traffic control actually came from the police department. This is how we're going to control traffic on game day or special events. Oh goodness, I wish I was up there. At the very top, you'll see the road. That will actually be closed from Spring into Villers. I really need my glasses on. Will be closed at Spring into Villers. The roofs will actually also be closed, but will allow for bus transportation. Oh, you're so good. Thank you so much. I'm like, oh man, I'm not.
Jackie.
That will be closed, but we will have parking. The buses will come in and drop off right in, on that the main road there. What is that name of that road? Main, thank you very much. On Main. Busing will be there, so they'll drop off and continue out and exit that direction. Now, for parking into the venue itself, they will come down De Villers, and you see the little road that goes into the parking lot? That will be how we route people in. De Villers or Main, they come in there and they park in the parking lot itself. On a case-by-case basis, handicap, seniors, elderly, the police will allow them to come around and be dropped off in front of the stadium themselves. And then at the end of the day, when the games are done, we will open up the streets and traffic will exit. Police will close it off 1 hour into the game, open it up after the first or second inning, and then close it down an inning prior to the end of the game. But this will depend upon, is it tide, pedestrian traffic, and things of that nature. The reason we closed the street down was for pedestrian traffic. Most of the parking we've identified is right in that 2 or 3 block area, so pedestrians will be coming in mass, and so we wanted to ensure safety as they were crossing the street. Any questions on that particular little map?
Just a quick comment. If you were to go out now in front of the stadium and the way that the roadway has been blocked off because of construction, and you were to follow the traffic pattern to move around Main Street from Spring over to DeVillers, I guess, that basically is what we're proposing to take place on game day. So if you were to look at the way the traffic pattern is today because of construction, that's the way it's going to be. The pedestrian entry levels will be the first two roads on either side of the pond. If you look at that, at Spring and then Roos, that's where we see most of the pedestrians crossing the road into the stadium area, into the park, and then moving to the stadium. With the third entry to the far left, where the red lines are, that's where all your cars are going to be entering to go to the parking lot. So pretty much the way the traffic pattern is today for the next 20 days is what it's going to look like on game day.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Ms. Carter?
Yeah, one of the big issues when we began the park is ADA accessible for disabled. And I know if Sherry Meyer is here, she would be at the podium. I just wanted you to just bring the board up to speed on, what are you doing for the older senior citizens? What are you doing for the handicapped? Are we ready for them on game day?
Yes, there's actually handicap parking in the parking lot itself.
How
and
many?
24 spaces.
And will you have golf carts or something to help them from, the walking, the parking facilities that are, close by, not obviously the ones that are far away, and I hope that we can handle that problem with the transportation. What are your...
We won't be providing golf carts, but I'm hoping some of those vendors we've discussed will be doing some of those services.
Well, yeah, we're certainly not on, this board can tell them, we can say we want to pay to have golf carts, but as Kim said earlier, they're going to take it case by case. If somebody wants to drop somebody off at the front door, they can. Mr. Baldwin, you had your hand up.
Just want to let you know that we have already purchased one, and we are planning to purchase the second golf cart. And the idea is to control those areas and help anybody that needs assistance.
Wonderful.
Thank you, sir. That takes care of that. Kim?
The next slide is our parking placards. We have sold 96 of the VIP parking in the parking spaces in the stadium lot themselves. And that's the placards they will receive that will go onto their rearview mirrors that will allow them into the pit spaces. This, and once again, this identifies pages in your parking manual which is another lovely packet in front of you. And we'll go through it real quick. Page 2 is the parking requirements that we are required to fulfill, and we've just kind of identified those for you guys, kind of pulled them out of the contract itself. Page 3 and 4 are the parking lots, which is, we've already seen that at one of these slides. That's a lovely picture that we showed up there. Traffic control we've just discussed. Parking hours, I went ahead, and it's about a 5 to 6 hour time frame. We went ahead and identified the parking hours per game that we're going to be manning these parking lots, just for your overview and for our use as well in budgeting. Pages 8 through 11 are the staff guidelines. We think it's important that any staff or volunteers that we use to man parking lots have guidelines and expectations that we will kind of guide them through the process, customer service, what they can wear, what's appropriate when they show up, what the parking lot's supposed to look like when they leave, those kind of things. And then page 12 is our parking availability. And that's it. Does anybody have any questions about parking?
Councilman Pratt.
I have a few questions. In one of the drawings, you had it still there, but there would have been a plan until the whatever private development happened, where the museum was going to go, there was going to be on-grass parking like we've had for Civic, and is that included in these parking plans? Because I thought 225 sounded lower than, that sounded like what's in the official parking.
Not at this time. That parking is grass parking.
Oh. I'll address that. We're looking at that.
Okay.
There is, we did enforce that to do that. The parking lot has 350 parking spaces in it. The Wahoos, as y'all recall, get 100 of those. They get a total of 150, 100 there and 50 across the street, which we've taken into account. The 225 also leaves in the handicap spots, which is a tough decision we can make now. We can defer, which we're probably going to defer, I think. We can charge for those parking space, the handicap spaces. By law, in an event like that, we can charge $10 for those spaces. There's $360 there per night if you want to do that. I'm not sure if we want to address that at this point. The biggest issue on the grass is that it's against the city policy to park on grass, and this is in the city. You cannot.
But we've done it at the Civic Center,
Where
the tech park is.
That's a great comment. Now they don't do it, but you're right, and we are working on that. We brought that up. I've brought that up several times, including yesterday. So we are looking at that. Mr. Baldwin's can go either way. He said his players can park there. He can park in the parking lot. So we are looking at that as we go through with that. And while we're on this subject, and you're about to hit fees, I presume.
No, I was not going to hit parking fees, but I can.
Are you going to hit fees in this presentation?
Nope.
At all? Okay. Well, I want to say this for the record that we went out, the city, our contractor went out with a letter a week and a half ago, and I'm thrilled that it's at 99. We discussed what the price should be, came up with $700. There's 70 home games, so we came up with $10 per game, and people pay up front, and we had 99 people so far, and they've got another week, and then we're going to open it up to everybody. This is just the season ticket holders. But there's I thought this committee was going to approve all fees, and they were, and they're supposed to, and that's my fault. In getting carried away of sending this letter out, we came up with that fee structure, and I told them to go ahead. So I want to apologize to this board and the audit and operations about not having this board approve it. We certainly can change that fee structure. We can't to the people who've already paid, but we can certainly do it next year. But it just seemed like a good number, and it looks like it's going to work out. We should sell that out, which brings in, a quick $160,000. Councilman Pratt.
Okay, I had just a few more, and I guess that one is part of my question. Are all of these lots that are in the picture, in the blue, are they going to be paid, or is it going to be, some of them will be free and closer in will be paid?
In our review of the parking lots in the downtown area and the various organizations that have access to those parking lots or control them, I think is a better word, it's been our finding that they will be paid parking. I think you're going to find that throughout the downtown area. I think the DIB has identified one area where there's free parking, and I think that will come out as the maps are disseminated through the newspaper and other ways. But the parking, as I've been aware of it and found it to be, is going to be somewhere between $3 and $7, depending upon the lot and its location to the stadium. It really is about the closer you get to the stadium, probably the more you're going to pay. But the lots, for the most part, will be $3 and $5, and I think there's a $7 lot, and then of course there's the stadium parking.
I guess that addresses part of my question was, if we're expecting people to park at City Hall, I mean, it has these big signs that says, only employees, so we'll have like a little guy there with his little flashlight waving them in. Okay, and then, and maybe this is something for Ms. Carter, but it might be beneficial even beyond us for our downtown and such if there were shuttles to the Jefferson Garage or something to get people going from not just this part of our city, but to get to them to downtown. It could be less expensive. And so I'm hoping we'll have a way to encourage people to explore further. And then finally, if we're going to be shutting that part of Maine, I hope there's a way for us to get information out or even signage at Romana or Gregory so that people don't, I keep forgetting it's closed. I'll say, I'll get on Bayfront because I'll be faster, and then I'm like, oh no, because then I get behind 3 semi-trucks trying to turn left on, So if we can make sure that there's signage where people had the choice to get up on Garden or something, I think that would reduce animosity.
And I will say on the on-street parking, it's free. Because these games are, most of them after 5, you don't pay the meters, and there's hundreds of those spaces. I tell people that complain about the parking fees, come early, get one of those spaces and come enjoy a hot dog. And also, when you brought up the Civic Center, I did question that, and they said, well, that's a special event. in the ordinance.
I think that's a pretty
Well,
good
that's
thing,
what,
too.
and that's my comment. So there is a way to change the land ordinance. If we come to that, we might not have to come to that, but I agree there's some spaces there, and we're in talks with Mr. Baldwin. I'd have two hands up. First, Dr. Jones, he's off. Mr. Merding.
Well, at the committee meeting, it was my understanding that there was a motion in the form of a recommendation that grass area be used, and if we're not going to be able to use it, why did the city authorize us to spend all the damn money for the underlayment so that it would be suitable for parking? That to me constitutes a stopple.
What are you saying, shaking your head about, Steve Dana? We didn't spend money?
We didn't put any subsurface structure onto the grassed areas in anticipating parking. That was value engineered out because, one, we don't feel like we need it economically. Turf and the soil will stand up on its own just fine. And plus, two, the money, we just didn't have it.
But you can't park there. And Mr. Merding, after your meeting that I came to on Monday, I have explored this further, getting the grass, and this is all a work in progress, including this traffic pattern. We haven't had a baseball team there before, and we're gonna work through this, and nothing's in stone. So we're exploring that.
All right. I was just saying that was a form of a motion and a formal recommendation from the committees. Second of all, I think one of the other things that came out of the committee was if the $700 packages are not sold, either the season tickets or partial season tickets, it was my understanding that the recommendation was that they would be, one, open to the public, and then, if that didn't happen, that there would be the opportunity to sell on a per individual, night, and not just for baseball, but for special events, and the recommendation that I think came out of the committee was at a higher price, than the $10, because you would have some cost of collection, and you get some discount for buying $700 worth in advance.
Right. There's talk of you could pay $15 in that lot alone, and we already get beat up for high prices on parking. But my wish, and I hope, because it sure clears up that parking attendant not have to deal with money or anything else, that he's just going to wave people in with passes, and hopefully that'll be a sellout. Our 225. We're halfway home. Dr. Jones.
Well, we've been talking, we have to remember that they're mostly talking about baseball game days, and this is a community maritime park which is open all year round, and I hope we don't get too fixated on charging for parking because we do want people to come down there and not have to pay $15 just to park.
And this is just for these games we're talking about, and we had that conversation yesterday afternoon about we're going to do a parking. Also, you charge if there's a wedding, being the stadium's rented out for a wedding, do you charge for that parking lot? Well, it's an opportunity to make money, but do we sell that with a package? We're kind of fixing right now if it's a ticketed event, maybe that's what we charge for. Do we charge when the Boy Scouts have their function in there, which is a ticketed event? So we're working through that. Go ahead.
I just want to mention the pricing for the ball game parking certainly is not going to be the price throughout the year. I mean, on smaller events or ticketed events, whatever size they may be, we may be looking at $3 to $5 for those kinds of events. The $10 really is because of its location and relationship to the ball game and those kinds of things. So we certainly recognize that issue.
I'm gonna only because Fred Gunther's on this committee, and I don't know if he's filled out a card, but I'm gonna call on him because I saw he's had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And one of the reasons I want to speak is our chairman was at a mandatory meeting. But this is kind of troubling to me. As I worked with staff to help prepare the budget. Before we even borrowed money to redo the stadium seats or whatever, our projected budget was around $50,000 a year in the red. We were projecting about $50,000 a year more in parking income. It's pretty significant. It's more than the annual rent from the stadium. So, that was sort of based on using that lot, and in addition, those other lots that actually I didn't find out until yesterday are more of a hole and can't be parked in. And I mean, I appreciate that may be being worked on or whatever, but I don't think the CMPA has the luxury of waiting for that to be worked out. I mean, this is about $100,000 a year of possible additional revenue that, you know, the CMPA needs to maintain the park and the stadium, you know, going forward. I would recommend that the board, move forward with the Operations and Audit Committee's recommendation to include those parcels, as parking, and let the city work it out, whether they call it a special event or whatever they do. But, I mean, we need that revenue, so thank you.
And I appreciate it. And yesterday I asked you, Mr. Guthrie, about those numbers, and I still haven't seen that budget, but you said it's a little under. And I do want to remind this committee that the numbers, what was the total parking revenue number in that budget? Do you remember?
Around $236,000, I believe.
236. This one night, these baseball nights alone, with the sellout of the 225, is about 160,000. And if we get some more, depending on how we address the handicaps, and if we get some more back, as he said, so that's just baseball, 70 nights. So we got 280 more nights approximately that we can be selling parking. Hopefully we'll reach that goal. But I understand completely. That's why I addressed it as soon as I heard y'all talking Monday of why can't we move Mr. Ball. At first I talked to him. He's willing to move his people to that grass lot and let us sell more in that other lot. Mr. Murdy.
Well, I think there's more.
And excuse me, I'm sorry. I should say, and the reason Mr. Baldwin's a logical choice is you've just heard the security reasons they're going to shut that road off. So you can't very well park in that dirt lot with a customer that you're charging, hey, here's $10, you can't get to your parking space. So because his players arrive early and the staff arrive early, they're logical to get there before the road's cut off. But to have open parking there that we're charging for on the grass is not going to work on this current security system of closing that loop road off. So we got to work through that as well. So if we can push him some where you can get to the main parking lot that we're selling, the way the road security is now, that's where we need to be selling our things. Mr. Murdy.
If I'm not misreading this summary, looks to be like we're about 140,000 short.
Mr. Chairman, that's the construction budget and not the operational budget.
Well,
I'm
it's
not
going to
sure
take dollars
where's he looking
to cover it, right? The shortfall?
The budget amendment we're going to show you in just a few moments has some $70,000 coming towards us as projects are closed out. Final bills are paid for various subs as we're completing the project, and we have the expectation of making this up within the current budget. We also have, as you see on there, $2 million set aside for the breakwater, which we know our current bid on that is 1.9. So there's plus or minus 100,000 there. So we're comfortable with where the construction budget is. This is the operational issue.
We'll finish. We'll get back to that.
To me, we got an opportunity. Mr. Gunner made the point, and he worked with the staff. I just think we need to be aware of the budget issues.
Believe me, I'm not protecting the grass. I want every penny we can get out of the parking, and I have, since attending that meeting on Monday, have been pursuing it, and I've told you some of the roadblocks that I'm hitting, security being one and the grass being the other. I think we can overcome most of it, and that's what we're working on. All right, Kim?
Lastly is our vending. Currently at this time, there is no vending program due to a lack of an ordinance. We are working in the direction of having an ordinance created and passed. Does anybody have any questions?
Kim, the timeline you expect the city to change their ordinance is within the next possibly 30 to 60 days, and then you'll bring the program back?
I was not given a specific timeline. Best hope, yes, but we're not going to depend on that. We are ready to roll with a vending program once that ordinance is passed, and we're hoping to meet with Audra and her group prior to that with some of the vendors to let them know what needs to be done for them, so that when we do have that ordinance, we can hit the road running.
Councilwoman Pratt.
But my understanding is if for a special event, we can have vending on the partial property. So, I mean, looking at your schedule, we have many, many special events. So we still can have it only on those special event days.
Correct. If they are permitted as a special event, we can have vending, yes.
But when we have the bay vendor or whatever, what is it? Whatever you had.
That is actually, they are going through the special event process.
Right.
They will have to go through that.
So, but there could be other vending kind of opportunities within those.
Yes, ma'am.
projects.
Mhm.
And then also, it doesn't preclude like food trucks on the right of way. My understanding that food trucks can go in the valid parking spaces.
If we go that direction, yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fountain? Yes, ma'am. Mouton, I'm sorry. I had the wrong card in front of me. Ms.
All right,
Mouton,
that's-
yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. If you would, I just want to make sure I have good understanding. Also, too, we want to thank both Kim and Heather as well. They have been very gracious and very knowledgeable. Every meeting that we have attended, and it certainly has been quite a few, we just feel like the family now, if you will. It's been quite a few. But I do have some specific questions, and I just want to have a good understanding. In your packet, if you would go to where the map is that states the community markets, the festival grounds, and the amphitheater.
Jeff, can you get that?
In conjunction with that, the questions that I have, so on April the 5th, game day, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. There will be absolutely no vendors at that particular event. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so for the month of May, for the month of April, and also for the month of May, that means that there will be no vendors in the park.
That is correct. We may have a farmer's market and things of that nature, but at this time, that is absolutely correct.
Okay.
You mean on game day or not on game day?
The community markets will be on game day if we do have them.
The question was, can you have vendors in the park on non-game days?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, Dr.
But
Jones,
not
I'm
food
getting there.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, I'm getting there. The original question was on April 5th, there will be no vendors for game day. And then the next question was for the month of April and the month of May, there will be no vendors in the park as well.
At this time, no, but that could change.
Yes, ma'am. And if you would now turn to the proposed schedule of events, the June through October, where it starts off June the 2nd, which is the Saturday, through June, July, August, September, October, really almost through the end of the year. Will there be food cart vendors in the park making money?
Only as a special event.
Okay. And if you will, that's the part that we have a little problem understanding. We totally understand the vendors who are already established. That's totally understandable. They will be making money through June through October at the Maritime Park. So for the people who are not established right now, who do not have either the trailer, trucks, cart, or the Airstream trailer, or for that matter, the kiosk or the push cart vending. So that is what I have a question about, because it states that it is currently prohibited under the Land Development Code, meaning you can't have vendors in the park. So again, it's a little cloudy, because if the ordinance is not there, how then can the established vendors who already have either a trailer, a truck, a cart, or an Airstream trailer be at the park?
They can't. They have to be part of a special event. Let's say you have Kim Carmody's Festival of Fun. I, as an event planner, would have to go through a permitting process and identify all the vendors or subcontractors that will be at my events through the special event process.
And the second part of that question is then, if you have someone then who is ready to go ahead and purchase the equipment, but because the rules have not been made public for the park, do you just Are you on an on hold? I think Mr. Spears just asked the question, is it going to be 30 or 60 days? And you said there was no timeline. That is a guess and a hope. So again, we're in limbo, if you will, because do you go and purchase a trailer, a truck, a cart, or an Airstream, and then when the vending program comes out, then you're told, Sherry Allen, that particular equipment does not meet the criteria for the park?
No, that's why we're going to be getting with Ms. Audra Carter and all the potential vendors and actually do some training, working with the vendors, identifying what they need to have ready and what the steps are.
All righty. So with that, the last question would be, so I won't have to take off from work one more day. So what time frame then are we speaking of so that we can then be educated on the actual steps?
Can I answer
Ms.
that?
Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things we know is that we need to get this done post-taste. So we know that Ms. Sherry has been vigilant. So she's at the top of the list. One of the things that Kim and David will do, they will walk her through the process. She wants it, we want her there. So in answer to your question, see that lady and that nice gentleman? They're going to walk you through the process. And whatever it takes for us to make it all cajole at the same time so that we have the ordinance and the special events. Right now, all we can afford to do to get past this hump is a
Yes,
special
ma'am.
event. So that's what we're going to go with. But the city, the board, the council member, and everybody in this room is going to work hard together so that we follow the code, the ordinance, and get you where you need to be, because you've been one of the people really interested. So
Yes,
just stick
ma'am.
with her, and after this board meeting, we'll full stream ahead.
Right.
But we have to resolve this and get this okay before we can move forward,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Correct.
And thank you for that, Ms. Carter. The money-making season is the summer season, the baseball season. And so are you saying as far as a time frame, and again, we're just trying to gather information, do you think really and truly that it really won't be this season?
I absolutely have no idea. I really don't. That is going to depend on several different factors.
Okay. Dr. Jones, you had a question?
Dr. Jones, thank you.
Clarify for me that when vendors, push cart vendors can and cannot be in the park, only is it after an ordinance is passed permitting that, then they may be there without being a special event?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Murdy.
Are you prepared to make a commitment that you will in fact make these special events so that vendors can be at these events that are shown in blue on, the weekends?
Definitely. If it's one that has been created in our department, that is definitely what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's something that's another one, then we will give them our resources and make suggestions.
Right.
But yeah.
But these are booked now, so you're telling these people and anyone else that these will be special events. You will get them permitted as special events, and as special events, then vendors working through you can participate.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And so if they're satisfied with those limited number of events, which are the weekends, which should be good, they could go ahead and make plans, as far as acquiring equipment or whatever.
Yeah, correct. And what we will do is after this meeting, we'll sit back and we'll decide some dates. Ms. Audra does have some trainings that are coming up, and we'll be part of those hopefully, and then anything else. But real quick, we're ready to roll. Like I said earlier, it's just a matter of getting it's just getting the information to them.
The ordinance or the lack thereof took, I know, our committee and board by surprise. I mean, this thing's been going on for 6 years to find out that, I hope baseball's not illegal by ordinance.
That's right. Well, and thank you again for being here. I know y'all been here.
Thank you,
I'm going to
sir.
echo some of Mr. Murdy that we do, and I know y'all are new to the game. We appreciate that y'all have contracted with us to do this, but let's try to get that program out as quick as we can. Mr. Fountain, I had put you off earlier when you were talking about the vending. Did you have anything else to say? No. Thank you, sir.
Can I just make one comment?
Ms. Carter.
Mr. Fountain is another one of those, and Ed can testify to this. He probably was before Miss Sherry, and he has some unique issues. One, he wants to be a vendor. He wants to own a machine. we don't have that yet. We know that eventually we would get there. We're not sure where to put him, but he wants to be that person, if there is a person that has a vending machine in a locker room. Very unique things that, Kim and Dave have to work out. So I know I'm putting a little pressure on you within the next 30 days. Definitely, I'd like you to bring back to the board, just these unique cases so that the board will understand that you're working with those who are interested. We do have some people, and explain to them where can carts be outside. This is not talking about the special events, but outside, because a lot of people in the community, they're only concerned about the, where they can do their wares outside of the park, which is a whole nother thing, Chairman, that most people are saying, well, we should be able to do that even if they don't have an ordinance. So that's a big issue that has come up, and I've been asked about
Thank you, and I
that.
appreciate your help on that, Ms. Carter, moving that forward. Kim?
That concludes my presentation, if there's no more questions.
Do you have a flat
Dr.
rate
Johnson.
fee for use of the facilities?
For use of the,
Well, there are two ways of doing it, as you know. There's one is what's called a wall-to-wall or something like that, where the promoter contracts to rent the entire facilities and they provide all the infrastructure. Do you have a fee for that?
I do not. What we will do with promoters, especially musical promoters or theatrical promoters, we will actually contract with them to do a percentage of revenue sales, ticket sales, T-shirt sales, merchandising sales, and then we would receive all parking.
And I'm talking about nonprofits.
Yes, that is the fee structure that was identified in your packet. It's $1,000 for either the festival grounds or the amphitheater. It's a 20% discount for all nonprofits.
And that you indicated earlier in another meeting that was negotiable.
No. I mean, I think everything is negotiable, but not at this level. That would be from the negotiable, meaning that if I have an event coming in and they are charging, you go for it.
Negotiable means we're walking into a minefield with other vendors, not vendors, but other people who want activities in the park. I think we need to be very consistent about our fees and charges. That's why we've put a 20% nonprofit reduction in our fees. But we don't want to get into a situation where we work with one organization, give them reduction in prices, and then have to turn around and do that with everybody else that says, well, we're nonprofit too. I think we've identified the nonprofit benefit, and I think we're going to have to stick with that.
Okay, so you do not have a flat fee, and it's a la carte. They provide the rental fees by the hour. What about the police, fire, and staff?
They cover all of that.
Who covers all
That
that?
on your fee structure, if you'll look at it at the bottom,
Right.
that is at cost. The individual that is the event promoter or the festival promoter, they cover the cost of fencing if it's a ticketed event, the cost of staff, the cost of police, fire, EMT, all of that. That is covered by the promoter or the event planner.
But you said it costs, but you have in the upper part an hourly fee or something for staff, technical staff, bubble staff.
That is covered by the event planner as well.
But those are the fees that will be paid by the event planner.
Correct.
Okay,
And what was negotiable is sometimes I may not need a technical staff person, but I would always have to have a staff person on site to ensure, safety, that individuals are, customer service. If I have a festival on the grounds and then the electrical outlet goes on, we need to have that individual there so they can fix it and get that festival up and running, those kind of things.
And board, I think Mr. Flaherty said it well, it's a dangerous area, slippery slope. We've talked about this. We've talked about what great work we're doing. We're doing as much as we can to open this to public. But if we start waiving fees, you know that Miss Scott's going to get a call, and I've already gotten several. Hey, I want to use the amphitheater for that, and it's for the children's choir, or it's for this. And, of course, that might be one of my causes is not Dr. Jones. Then Dr. Jones gets a call. They're trying to charge me $800. Can you get that waived? And we can change any fees we want to change. These people we've hired them to come up with a structure, and they put a lot of hours in it. And I think that's, for the protection of this board, is probably the way to go at this point. And we can always adjust later. But if we say negotiable, and guess who they're going to negotiate with? You, and get that waived. So If they come to you and want something free, you should say, I'm going to sponsor it for y'all, and then let them do it. I appreciate everything y'all have done. On the, before you leave, Ms. Johnson brought her card up. Eleanor Johnson.
Thank you and good afternoon. I just wanted to, I had two questions. Who is the one that would negotiate the ordinance? Because in doing research on vending ordinances, it's not just clear cut that vending is allowed. It has a coordinated effort with health and safety, with the state and the city. Generally, in most cities and states, they coordinate that vending so that there are restrictions and there's ways to control food poisoning and those kinds of things. So who is the person who would adopt the ordinance and take it to be approved by the city council?
Mr. Chairman, the city's planning and zoning staff would craft the ordinance, and it would be presented from the mayor to city council for consideration. And it would go through the ordinance process, first reading, second reading, and then it would be approved. So it would take approximately 30 to 45 days to get through the city council process with 2 readings and 2 votes.
Okay, and are you sure that that is not a, also, would that be a coordinated effort? Because I do know that the state plays a heavy role in a vending ordinance, depending on whether it's food or soft items.
The city's ordinance would not change any health regulations, any safety regulations. Those are business license aspects that would still have to be followed. This simply allows it to be done in public locations within the city, which is currently prohibited.
Okay.
And we've identified in our packet what has to be done for food vendors and for merchandise vendors.
Okay, because I have said this before, that I thought it was pretty ridiculous to even come up with a vending program until that ordinance had been adopted and voted on and discussed and gotten thoroughly researched, so that when you did put the announcement out to the public, that, like she said, they wouldn't invest thinking that they'll be part of a good season. And so now we're here at the time, and now they're going to have to be put on hold because no one has done the due diligence to get the ordinance passed first. So we kind of put the cart before the horse. And we discussed this, I know, 2 years ago. And so we've got to stop wasting energy like that and getting people excited to be turned around, and we keep doing that time and time again. So there's probably people already who've already invested some money and time in wanting to be vendors, but you've got to get the ordinance passed to even participate in that. Thank you.
And Ms. Johnson, I agree with you. And as I said, they came late to the table as our contractor here, but I agree with Mr. Merding. We're gonna fast track that and get that moving. Mr. Merding.
I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the fee schedule in the first part and as presented.
So you're looking at the
I'm
rental
not
program.
including the parking at this point. I'm breaking it down.
So hoping to get one motion. Okay, your motion is for.
Parks and the amphitheater use fees.
Theater rentals.
Second.
Got a motion, second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Dr. Jones.
I think there's been inadequate public input for these. I don't think this has been available to the public except for right now. Is that not correct? And I do not think it's appropriate to pass on this until we have a more input from the people who are going to be users of the thing, particularly about the arrangements that are here in the fee schedule.
Mr. Baker.
What if it was put out that it could be amended from time to time? So we could probably get something started, but it may be something that gets revisited again, say, within a month.
And that's, not that I'm soliciting your vote, I'm going to agree with Mr. Baker on that. If we can go ahead and get this approved, and then if we want to do a hearing, if people don't like it, here's the fees we've come up with originally, but if you don't like them, let's massage them some. I think, again, they've done a good job getting to where we are, but I understand your concern.
How would that work? I mean, that sounds like a good idea. Would that work with you all to have a public forum and then be amenable to suggested changes?
We would certainly follow your lead.
Good answer, Mr. Flaherty. And we are going to need to move, but Mr. Merding.
It's my understanding that these fees were, you didn't pull them out of the air. You surveyed an awful lot of facilities, you recognize what our obligations were and, you know, the obligation to, you know, maximize the revenue. And you can't just do that by putting sky-high prices that no one will pay. So it's a balancing act. And so, you know, this was not something that there was an awful lot of research and time and effort went into it. So just because somebody complains, you know, I think there's a point, you know, I don't have a problem with the public input, but I think it needs to be recognized that they've put an awful lot of time and effort in this, and there's a, you know, I think there's a rational basis for these charges.
And it's certainly supply and demand. Ms. Johnson, did you want to comment on this?
I just wanted to ask if we could, in having the public input, at least you get people who've been doing this for a while, and so that you're considering, there may be some things that we've forgotten, but people who've been doing this for a while could bring something to Dave and they say, oh yeah, we know, we didn't think about that. So we need professional people who are actually been doing this for a while to be in a public forum so that they can make sure they got all their bases covered.
And I know they've reached out to other people outside, just look what other communities, but I agree with you 100%. And this, and I appreciate your comments. This is, again, we're trial and error, and if we need to fix it, we're going to fix it. We're not going to be stuck in mud. All right, I'm going to do the vote if there's no more questions. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion opposed.
One opposed. Now we have, so we did not include the parking plan on that.
Move approval of their presentation of the parking plan.
I've got a motion to move approval of the parking plan.
Second.
I'd like,
I've got a motion, a second discussion. Mr. Murdy.
I'd like to, I think we ought to consider the recommendation that came out of the committee that the chairman has indicated he's been working on, and I think that to pass it as proposed, I think would be a bad move, because I think that would then take the issue of the, you know, parking on the grass out of the equation, because that's not part of their recommendation. So I would ask if Mr. Baker would allow an amendment to his motion to include that, so the chairman could continue his efforts.
Certainly, I think this is something that also could be revisited and it's approved on, but we need to get something started so that they can be actually entering into contracts and agreements.
So is that a yes to my requested amendment or a no?
Yes.
So is it an amendment that we approve the parking plan with, if we can park on the grass, we want to park on the grass?
And that was the recommendation of the committee and the formal action of this board approving it subject to that.
Fair enough. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yes, yes, I seconded, yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Scott. You second the addition. Thank you.
As you pointed out before, Fred Gunther is doing a good job and will continue to do so. It's one of our, these committees have people besides the ones sitting here, and Fred Gunther's been doing a pretty darn good job of trying to go through all these numbers. I didn't want you to hear that.
And I certainly appreciate it. I want to echo my comments to Mr. Gunther. He brought that up Monday about the parking and fee structure as far as the budget, and I'm very pleased with where we are right now on the main parking lot there. And like I said, that's 70 events out of 280, and hopefully there's other paid events. Then you get the thing, well, what about you're going to make people pay when they come to the Boy Scouts? So I am, if we can. You know, but we're working through that. And before we move on to our next subject, we are, I know they are working too with, they're doing a great job with the grounds. We're looking at getting a third party involved with stadium leases, which we haven't even talked about, outside revenue coming from non-baseball events. So hopefully we'll have some good news next meeting.
I got one question.
Ms. Scott.
It's kind of related, but not related, and may not even make a difference, because I know we own the rights to the logo, right, to our trademark logo. And so I'm just wondering if do we need, or is there any discussion on how that logo is used? And the reason I ask is because I look at the pamphlet here, and I noticed that we've altered the logo here, and I know sometimes it's an issue, sometimes it's not. So.
Can I add to that?
And I was going to ask, because Ms. Carter is in advertising, so I was going to ask.
Yeah, Ed, remember the thing with Jane Birdwell, and we've going back and forth? We have to make sure that we have trademark and, I mean, for 20 years down the line, that no T-shirts come out because it could be a lot of valuable income to us, hats. That is something that we cannot lax on. Can you let us know that that's definitely done? Show us a document or something?
If you like, and if it's your instruction, we'll bring back a policy for you to consider on use of our logos and name.
Yeah.
Are they in fact trademarked?
They are. But you did point out, and I just noticed that that logo
Yeah,
has
it
been
has
changed.
been altered.
Do you have anything to say?
That could be an issue.
Chairman, so meanwhile, are we allowing alterations? Are we just going to go with what we have? How are we going to, what's your decision on that?
Ma'am, I'm sorry to hear
I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, in the meanwhile.
We'll correct that.
that. Okay. Very good. And we don't have any other action items, so before we lose my quorum, or do we?
The budget amendment, yes, sir. That was going to be in the administrative report.
Okay. Well, we still got a quorum. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Dave. We appreciate. I'm going to knock out E, and which will also be the grand opening committee, all at once. At our next meeting, which is April sometime, 18th, I think, we're going to announce the lineup for our grand opening event, June 9th. As you know, the stadium's opening in a couple weeks, which is just one part of this park that all y'all are responsible for, but the overall park opening is going to be June 9th, and we've got a budget of about $150,000 that Kim's spending as fast as she can. That is all donations and private. I went to the TDC last week and got $50,000. I've gotten some monies from different places, and we have made up our budget from hook and crook. But so none of it's coming from these dollars whatsoever. And we're going to have fireworks. We're going to have several name bands. We have a lot of children's stuff. I don't want to give away too much of the fanfare, but it's going to be a great event. June 9th, everybody put it on the calendar. The dedication is going to be between 12 and 1. We're going to do the stadium's going to be open between 10 and 4. We're going to have free hot dogs up in the stadium from about 11 to 1. There's just all kinds of activities. So everybody keep posted on that, and that's going to be, once again, June 9th, and you will certainly get stuff in the future. But put it on your calendar. It's exciting. And at our next meeting, we're going to make that official lineup and give out the bands and all the other events going on, from the kids stuff and everything else. And we'll hold a press conference at that time as well to give out that lineup. Okay? Moving along, Construction Owners Representative Steve Dana.
Thank you, Chairman, Board. Obviously, the construction is moving along well and fast and furious. The stadium work itself is nearing completion. The stucco on the Section A was completed last week. They're stuccoing the last section of the right field bathroom now. The exterior is just, other than those items, are minor touch-up, painting and flashing, those sort of things that are ongoing, and cleanup. The interior of the stadium is being cleaned up from area D through C, B, and A. Same thing, touching up carpets, paint, changing out key locks, those small things that are the last to do. The permits and inspections are ongoing. Magi was expecting to get a CO or TCO the end of this week. It's in our report. This morning they had some coordination issues with the Blue Wahoo's concession equipment with life safety items, so they're working through those coordination issues, so that CO might likely be next week rather than the end of this week. The ball field looks fantastic. I don't know if anybody's been out on it, but the turf grass looks great, and we've had lots of great comments from people that have seen it and are in the know about it, so that's exciting. The amphitheater is going. I know you've seen the structural steel go up, and that's been a nice shot in the arm and some good PR to see that happen. The next steps are to finish the pouring of the pedestals for the brick piers, painting the steel, and then the next thing that we'll really see is the roof decking going on. And simultaneously, the back of house will start to come up with their slab and then up out of the ground after that. The site work has been progressing well. The asphalt is now completely complete on site. All the roads, the parking lot is finished. The signage and striping is nearly complete, if not all complete at this time. Landscaping is moving on. Every day they're planting new beds, moving from basically emphasizing the northern portion of the site, moving back towards the south site. And next week should be by the end of early next week, they should be done with everything to the north of the stadium and be working on the south event lawn and get that sodded, irrigated sodded, landscaped before the park opens. The schedule is that we'll be right on it, and we should get the CO next week. The Main Street project, again, just coordination issues with that one. They've opened up the south side of Main Street. They're working right now they've closed the north side of Main Street. They're working on their crosswalks, east to west crosswalks, and putting in the landscaping. Now the shipment of trees came today, so that's moving quickly too in order to get finished for the end of the month, same time frame. Ms. Carter, you asked me to help with some EBO items. That letter did go out. Just to update you on that. We've received, we probably sent out 60, 70 letters to the various vendors and subcontractors, and we've maybe received 20% back so far. Most of those anecdotally didn't have much participation, but we're now going to move into actively pursuing those that have not responded and collecting that information. So that's the next step for you.
It's important because we did have great employee for the park, and if Quint was here, he would say we got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to give you a deadline. I mean, the report's being held up because, we got to have some figures, and so I have to give him a deadline so that we can get it done. I'd like to have the report done and ready for print by the 9th, so we can have that as part of our, community thing. So I got to ask the board, maybe Mr. Merzen, since we cannot get specific data, all of it, we have to use, just a snippet. If he gives us 10 or 20, we have to use that and use that as our percentage. How does the board suggest, and I don't have the answer, so I'm asking you, that we do that in terms of, and what we're talking about is, on the job, what was the minority inclusion? We know there was a lot of it. The number that I'm giving is 45%, but we can't use that number because we can't prove that number. How do we utilize the good that we really did, but we don't have the data? How would you like me to put that in the report?
So when you say we can't use the 45% because we can't prove it, why can't we use it? Where are we getting that number from, and what is that based off of?
That's what Dana is trying to help.
Question better for George at this point.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Mr. Hawthorne.
George
To
can better
whom do
answer
you
that.
have to prove it? To whom do you have to prove these numbers?
Not to be true.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have.
Well,
I don't want to lie.
Representation.
Yeah.
You have to be able to stand behind your numbers when you put them out there. I mean, and even if it's just that this 45% is based on information provided by George Hawthorne or whatever, you have to say where that number came from.
Yeah, that number is based upon actually going out there on the site, looking at the site, reviewing the actual labor basis there. But what I would suggest is we just wait. Give us, it's only been out there less than 30 days. Let's give us the time to get the things back. We're pushing these guys very hard to get the park finished on time. Let's get through this next 2 weeks of construction, and then we can follow back up with it. And after they've gotten their job completed, then they can give us more complete numbers. I think because she just said we don't need it till June 9th. We got plenty of time to get the response back from them.
Well, and I hear Ms. Carter loud and clear, though, that we don't want to wait till, I don't want her looking at June 5th, and I ask her where it is, and she says, I'm still waiting. So let's
And can we do a deadline, because they work really well on deadlines?
George, what do you think is a reasonable deadline? If we say May 15th, you think it's reasonable?
May 15th, yes, very reasonable.
Remember, we got printing and all that kind of stuff to do too, so.
It could probably be May 1st, if they have it.
Steve, you think so?
Yeah, so, I mean, we're just in the next step. We just have to start calling the contractors that haven't responded yet and
Let's put
and
that
push
down.
them for the information.
May 1st, we'll have that information back in, and hopefully we can have some real numbers. I appreciate it. Steve, what else you got?
Just our budget analysis that is provided. I just want to point out that this morning, Ms. Ransom sent out a new sworn construction statement that updated the construction soft costs, so you can refer to that for that item. We said we keep you updated on our dirt issue. Right now, we're $180,000 over in what we budgeted for dirt. We're probably expecting another 95 or so thousand to finish the amphitheater and the east side and capping of development parcel 2. So that's the impact that that's had on us. You take a 30, 40 acre site at $8 a yard, that's really 6 inches of dirt or so. And that's a compaction factor, calculation that's, I don't know how that was missed or wasn't figured, but that's where we are with that. And that's basically, in a nutshell, where we are. Everybody's working hard. The Magi folks that were here to give a design build report, they had shovels and backhoes waiting for them back on site, so they went to go make progress. So they're not here anymore.
Mr. Murdy.
The fill, going back, did we not get an awful lot of fill from the airport site at a substantial savings? And is this above and beyond those savings?
Steve can elaborate, but yes, we did. From every active city construction site, we received fill dirt. Admiral Mason Park, the airport, possibly even some from Boost Beach.
Gaborone.
The issue with that is it could be used under the cap. It could not be the cap. The cap had to be certified materials, and Steve can detail that. So we used it where we could to get up to the 2 feet short and then 2 feet of cap. So we did receive free dirt from.
All right, but our original budget did not include that free dirt. We got the free dirt, but where we are now is above and beyond the budget.
The original budget, we did anticipate the free dirt, and we valued engineered accordingly, and obviously we came up a little short.
And we made every effort throughout the project anticipating this. Just simple things that the plans called for 95% compaction of the 2 foot of capped dirt. Well, that's, a road base. We don't need a road base compaction for a park. So we took that back to 85%, which is reasonable for a park space. So that's a few inches. So we did everything we could to help mitigate the overage. And this is where it's ended up.
Thank you, Mr. Dana. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do want to say, when we're talking about the COR and reports, and we still got some stuff to work through. As you know, we approved a budget last summer of carrying them through March, and we were there, and we are spent our money. Hatchmont, who's been the lead on this, came to see me last week, Charles Baxley, and who's not here in the audience, but I do see Mike Broussard. And I think they've done a great job. I think they put a lot of hours in here that they probably weren't compensated for to get the job done. Both these gentlemen lived here a long time. I know we've had some troubles with soft costs and some of the people paying. I certainly don't lump them into that group, and express my appreciation for them. And they sent a letter a couple days after that, or I think it was that same day. They're going to finish this project for no additional fees. And I want to thank Mike, because I do see him in there. If you'll pass that back to Charles Baxley as well, that Hatchmont, no, we're not here, and it's not like they made a lot early and they're going to ride that gravy train out. But and we've got a few other things we're going to have to adjust as we get out of here. But I just want to say that publicly. We appreciate it, Mike. All right. Next, we got design build team. Have they all gone? Perfect. Anybody have any comments on that? Operations and Audit Committee. I skipped administration. Administration, Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you the latest budget amendment number 11. This is starting to clean up as different components of the project are closed out. You'll see most of these lines, the ending balance starting to go to zero as final bills are received. Mostly this is from underground infrastructure work that has been completed and the final invoices are done and those subs are closed out. And as you will see, the net change for this particular budget amendment is a deduction of almost $72,000. That's money coming towards us, making the budget less, which will ultimately decrease this bottom line. And this is as we've been projecting, and the COR's report reflects those different expectations of contractor contingency returning to us and allowances returning to us. The contractor Magi has been very generous in releasing some of those in advance of the completion so that we can get our budget in order, make sure our projections are correct, and this reflects that. We did present it to Mr. Gray for his initial review, and he has authorized us to bring it forward to you today for your consideration. There is also behind that a budget for the $500,000 loan from the CRA detailing how that will be expended, and you've seen these numbers in the past, but we wanted to show you where we stand on that as well as the expenditures to date on that. And Nicole, anything did I miss?
Mr. Birding.
This budget amendment does not reflect or include the filled dirt excess that you just spoke about.
In one respect it does because the allowances are already reflected in here, and so those allowances are being spent. It will impact the amount we get back over time. So the money's been allocated as an allowance and reflected in this budget as an expenditure, and then whatever's left will come back to us as a credit, and then it will be reflected. But it's the tracking of how much in the contractor contingencies are spent and the allowances are spent that make our budget balance.
I guess.
Answer is yes.
Yes, it's reflected in here as an expense, as a budgeted item, but it will decrease as we get credits back. But we can't recognize them until the actual change.
Are we going to have enough money?
Yes, sales tax and contingencies.
The margin is very thin, as you see on the COR report. They're reflecting some $18,000 balance. You know, every few weeks it goes plus 20,000, minus 20,000. We're right there on that balance, and we're expecting to be as close as possible to zero.
I'll move the approval of the budget amendment.
Got a motion? Second. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Spears. Do you have anything else on administration?
I do, Mr. Chairman, and one other thing to point out, in this entire budget, there's also $2 million set aside for the breakwater. So no matter what, if we're 10,000 over, 10,000 under, the budget is made because that $2 million is sitting there. We know our current bid is 1.9 for the breakwater, having no idea when we'll get that, but we've set it aside at the full $2 million, and that is reflected in the budget.
And how long is that bid firm?
I don't have that information. I would speculate it's expired already.
Yeah, and that
we're going to have to redesign it anyway because we're finishing that corner, and we're going to have to change the means and method of how we're going to construct that.
And we made a commitment, this board, to Mr. Gray, as he was here funding us through some of this, that we were not going to touch that money if we got a hard bid. And we talked to him about this, a hard bid that would last through till we spent that money. We certainly could use it. At this point, we're okay. I mean, every day we get closer to April 5th, and first pitch, we're going to have that finished because it's a little hairy. We've had great weather. It's coming together. The temporary CO, we should get this Friday and turn that facility over to the Wahoos. One other note before we get there, I talked to Mr. Fleming this morning. We do have that summary judgment in before Judge Rogers, and I still summary judgments, as Mr. Murdy will tell you, are hard to win, but I feel real good about this one. And, we still have a possibility of, we've got in excess of $400,000 that we would be able to recoup if we win this summary judgment. Mr. Spears.
One final thing. May I ask if Mr. Strange or anyone from Panhandle Growers is here in the audience? We did invite them. We received a letter, and I forwarded it to the board, of a donation from Panhandle Growers. They were the low bidders to provide the trees for the Maritime Park project, and we received this letter dated March 12th, in which, in addition to their 25% off discounted pricing, they are at their own cost doubling the size of all the trees that were specified and purchased from them. It's a value of some $4,029. So the trees, if they were a 2-inch diameter, will be a 4-inch diameter, and so on. And so that was a very generous donation, and with the board's approval, I'll craft a thank you letter for the chairman.
Please. Everybody fine with that?
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Spears. With that, we'll go to Operations and Audit. I know Councilman Johnson had to leave. Mr. Baker?
Everything that we discussed in that meeting, we had a lot of parking experts there. We have already covered the action items and passed them.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any question on that? EBO Committee, Ms. Carter?
Thank you, Chairman. Just some update. We had a meeting, and I think we covered a lot of it, of the vending issues today in the presentation. I want to submit to the chair the budget again for the $1,800, which I will be using to work with Kim Carmody and the vending program. Meanwhile, I just wanted to give you an update on, I've contacted all of the minority media. They have all come up with creative ideas on how to utilize the $1,800 so we get more value. And I did include Grace with La Voz Latina, which is a past board member. They're all excited about being involved and working on the vendors process. So I just want to make sure that I have permission to spend that money.
You want
$1,800.
to spend the money that we've already allocated?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've already given you permission.
Yes.
Spend
Okay.
away.
Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, I do have information. I do want to give you an update on the last workshop, the first one of all of the workshops that we had with only the 13 vendors of the Community Maritime Park. So I'm going to submit this to the chair. I didn't make copies, but basically the focus of the workshop was to shift the focus from the Community Maritime Park, because it's ended into other opportunities in the community, and we had Huey Works, P. Brown Builders, and Greg Green, Living Water, Alvin Wingate, Affordable Concrete, Kenneth Royster, and Wendell Warner and George Hawthorne in attendance. One of the things that I have been requested when I've talked to individuals such as Julian at McQueen at Innisfree, and also the airport, is that they need to know what capabilities these contractors have to help give them opportunities. I sent an email, which I'm going to submit to the chair, asking them for that in order to be prepared. Out of the 9, 5 brought the information and didn't fully honor the request of the capability statement. And I talked to each of them, and there are some needs of this particular group, and I'm asking that the board would allow the Equal Business Opportunity to work with them in getting their preparation. We are having another workshop on this coming Saturday at the airport. John Porter from the Baptist Hospital has told me he's going to be there. There's going to be an individual talking about bonding and cash flow and how to help these individuals. And I'm here to ask the board, because part of the frustration with this group is that we've done a lot of workshops, and I've done a lot of workshops for the city and for the airport. And one of the frustrations this group shared with me when I called them as a follow-up is that, they're done with the workshops. What they're really interested in is opportunity. Many of them feel like they're capable of doing the work. All they need is the opportunity to get in touch with people, and it still is a barrier there, Chairman, with working with primes and the experiences that they've had with the park. And so I took a huge chunk out of my time to just jot those down. And I told them that I would prefer to deal with any issues whatsoever in the Equal Business Opportunity Committee, and I'd like to refer that back to the community, the concerns, and then have the committee deal with those concerns and then bring back to your
So
recommendation.
you're going to take it at your committee?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Anything else?
I did not receive a Equal Business report at the last committee meeting, and I'm concerned about finishing up the project and tying up a lot of loose ends. So again, I would like that you defer that back to the Equal Business Opportunity Committee, and we'll just bring back how we're going to move through the process of completing. I got some complaints that I also want to share with you only, and then actually deal with them in the Equal Business Opportunity Community and deal with them.
Do it at the committee, and then bring it back to our committee?
Yes.
To our board. Ms. Scott?
My question is just a general question as we're coming to the end of this phase in terms of payment to, particularly to minority contractors. Are they being paid on time? And that might not be a question for you, Audrey, but I don't know if it is or not. But I'm just wondering, are we paying our minority contractors and all?
Ms. Scott, I'm going to submit the documentation that I got, and I really do not want to deal with it right now. I prefer to have it go to committee. There are some issues with that, and it came out in the conversations, and I think that it would be better if we dealt with them. I'm giving the chair a document of the conversations that I had, so he can look at it, but I really don't want to deal with it right now.
So that's a no, basically.
Well,
the reason I'm just asking, because I'm just generally just asking. So basically you're saying there's some issues that need to be worked out.
Yeah, and I'd like to really work them out in the Equal Business Opportunity. I mean, you'll be apprised of everything. We'll send to you everything, but, rather than get in a long conversation here, I'd rather like to look at it and vet it first, because there's a lot of allegations, things that may or may not be true, and I just don't want to have to air them here when we can air them in the committee.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll be awaiting your report in April. George, Ms. Johnson has been raising her hand back there, so I'm going to let her go first to the podium on that, and then Dr. Jones, and then we'll come back to George.
Okay, not to be condescending, but I stand here because I know that we can have a community where everyone can benefit from it. And I just want to know, why are we only spending $1,800 with minority advertisers when a whole page ad costs almost $1,800? Why haven't we been able to spend more money with our minority advertisers, and not just African Americans? Why is that budget so low? It might be too late to take a look at it, but when the black community and any minority community has a board that is inclusive, why is it that our minority contractors are being paid late? They've already stated at 2 city council meetings that their money is 90 to 120 days behind as of, last week, March 5th or 6th. And then we only spending a little bit of money with our minority advertisers. And we could do a bit better, I believe. So it looks like we're giving the illusion that we want to be inclusive, but yet again, the dollars are not coming into the community. Thank you.
And I think, Ms. Carter, we'd spent a little more before that $1,800. Is that correct?
3,000. Original budget was 10, and then I got 3, and then I asked you for 18 so we can continue on.
And on the delayed payments, I couldn't concur more. I get the calls. I know Nicole gets the calls. We, try to track it down. Everybody gives us this formula of Nicole stormed over to my office in December because I fussed at her on the phone, and we had a little meeting about it of how that is. And there's this protocol of how many days you get, how many days. And I said, let's don't be, no offense to the city employees, I said, let's don't be a bureaucrat here. If we can get this thing going faster, let's get it faster. And, it is what it is. And we've tried, Ms. Johnson, it's all contractors. I've been, from on down. And that's been a problem.
Chairman, and I really, really want to address those and give you the data.
All right.
There is issues on prompt pay that have come out of the discussion. I research and I have the chapter here, and there are real issues.
We'll look for your report in April. I appreciate that. I'm going to try to move it. Dr. Jones, you've had your hand up, then I'm going to call on George.
Did I understand you say that your Saturday, this next thing, you're going beyond the Maritime Park?
Yes.
Is that part of your committee, or should we not?
No.
Should we be doing that?
No, we have no money in our committee to do anything with these 18 contractors. So one of the things I said is, why not help transition them to other opportunities? We have a lot of people who want to deal with the same demographic, and they don't know where they are. So I invited them to do a presentation, of which I sent to you.
Right.
And it is part of our covenant with the community, equal business opportunity efforts. When the board decides what they're going to do with the committee, they might get rid of us. How we're going to go and honor the covenant in the private sector, none of that has been done. And I just wanted to give these people a bridge to go to somewhere else. And yes, sir.
Do we have to pay for parking at the
No,
airport?
actually, thank you. Would you guys say thank you to Melinda Crawford? She has allowed us to use her facility for free on the second floor, and she actually gives us parking.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
It's interesting, the paper noted that Derek Brooks was in town but working behind the scenes down to the point in talking of getting paychecks promptly during that. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I am aware of that. Yes.
Good. Was he very helpful?
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good to know. The last thing is, did you ever receive a resume from Mr. Hawthorne?
No, that is one of the issues that the chairman has to decide what we wanted to do about that. It's been a request that's been for many months. And quite frankly, I have to bring my stuff all the time. And I don't have any problem doing that. And I expressed to George that it's no big deal. Everybody has a resume, and the form that we ask it in. One of the problems with the group was we asked them for a capability study, and they brought me something else. And Melinda Crawford said, when you're going to get a job, you give the person who's making the decisions what they want. Regardless, it's not what you think, it's what they think, because they could further you. And so I think the chair, it's a request, and I don't know how to get it.
Well, interesting. I want to call Mr. Hawthorne in just a second, but I'll go to the committee first. Dr. Bolden, you had your hand up.
Just a point of information, since the EBO contract ends March 31st, which is just a few days down the road, where do you see us? I'm just asking as a point of information on it. Where do you see the EBO going? You don't have a budget, and technically we end on the 31st of March, so I'm just not sure. Are we in limbo? Are we going to stop, or what?
I'm glad Ms. Scott can answer that. The contract for the Equal Business Opportunity contract ends on the 31st. That was to administrate the construction aspects of the park. The covenant with the community and the spirit of the covenant and us being inclusive in this park will never end. But we need to decide, and we talked about that in our committee, Dr. Bolden.
Right.
Where do we go?
If we are going to help some of these minority contractors transition from here to there, wherever there is, you got to have some money to do that, and you have to have some authorization to do that.
Yes.
So I'm thinking that we're at a standstill, or we're at the end. Are we still going to be a part of the CMPA as a subcommittee?
The EBO absolutely is. Just like Design Committee and Audit and Operations will still be committees. And if they feel a need that they need to hire somebody, just like any of the other committees, then it's something that needs to come back before this board. But you're right, that contract is over March 31st. But Arthur Carter, as long as she's still willing, unless y'all remove her as chairman, will be chairman EBO and will continue to meet.
Well, just one follow-up, not to beat a dead horse, as Ms. Eleanor suggested. Suppose we need a budget for something. Where is that going to come from?
Well, it would need to come before this board. Dottie, I see your hand. I'm going to try to work around, and I've got a card here in front of me, Mr. Merding, and I've got Mr. Hawthorne on deck there.
I just wanted to emphasize the point that she made. She's been doing an awful lot of this behind the scenes. But to go back to originally, Mr. Baker, those of us that have been here from the inception, the reason that we got the initial bonds, this was a poverty district, census block, and that was the reason. And the reason was to not just put people to work for this project, but to give them the skill sets, the bonding capability, the experience on their resume, so that this would be a stepping stone to putting not only minorities, but those who have been economically disadvantaged or others that wanted the experience to grow their businesses, start their businesses. And so I see this going on, and I can see, just as the chairman said, our committees are going to function. That is certainly going to be a very major function that needs to go forward. And as we get revenue, we'll have opportunities and obligations, I think, to fund that.
Thank you. All right, with that, Mr. Baker.
I don't say this, of course, to be controversial, but we talked before about Hatchmont and the fact that they're continuing on beyond March 31st, at their own expense. It's a smaller dollar contract, but as I understand it, we're not quite through over there at March 31st as relates to what diversified program advisors are doing. Contract we kind of inherited from the developer and ratified, but I understand that in their efforts are going to continue on beyond March 31st, and thank them for doing it without compensation.
Well, that's good to hear. So that answers some of that. And George, you've been patiently waiting there. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I wanted just to bring up to speed in regards to the minority payments specifically. There has been the minority payments are been slow. The majority payments have been slow, but it's part of the process that HORs go through. I can assure you that City has paid, and the CMPA has paid Magi, the contractor, on time, every time per the contract schedule. What happens, there's a delay between the time that Magi gets the money and that it goes then to a prime sub, and then the sub pays their sub. And a lot of the time, the holdup has been missing lien waivers and areas of that time, and it's just gotten a little bit longer, and the process has gone through. But it's a long period of time, and they have had some hardships on that, and that was the one issue. The other issue relative to the disputes that are starting to come, we're going to have disputes at the end of any contract. That's any contract of this nature. So we are working from, but I did want to caution the EBO chair, is let's not her trying to negotiate resolutions for a contractor to a sub, and that just becomes, contract law is very difficult as it relates to construction, and it'd be better if, in fact, she sent those people back through the process that's been outlined in the EBO agreement, so that the owner doesn't take a position and start negotiating. That's a recipe for disaster.
Mr. Hawthorne, while I got you there, I've heard two committee members have asked about a resume. I asked you about it on Monday. You said you've turned in
I've given bios. If they want to, I have a full bio that lists everything I've done for the last 15, 20 years. It has everything that I've done. What are you saying? You want it in a resume form?
Yes, because a resume gives you the dates and times of education. They're two different things, focused for two different reasons. We can't verify anything if there's no dates for your education, for your background, who you work for. References are all on resumes.
Ms. Scott.
I'm sorry, I think I may have missed something. I'm not certain why we're at this point asking for Mr. Hawthorne's resumes and qualifications. What's the context of this discussion? I'm just a little lost.
There was a discussion last meeting. Councilman Gerald's had requested it for the committee, and I'm not sure what the purpose was at that time. And the chairman, Ms. Carter, asked about it, and he said he'd provide it. So I'm not sure. What is it? Did you get a bio, Ms. Carter?
No, I've never gotten a bio. And Mr. Gerald can speak to why we wanted that information. It's standing operating procedure for any program manager that we have. We just don't have things on file, and that was one of the requests that he had. And I don't see what the big deal is giving it, and why Mr. Hawthorne is so obstinate about not giving it.
I'm not obstinate about giving it.
So then why don't you just give it?
And we can be on it. All right, Dr. Jones.
We have asked for this for many, many months, as a matter of fact, and as Ms. Carter said, it's part of a standard operating procedure almost to have a resume on your employees.
Mr. Hawthorne, you said you turned in your
I've
bio
had a bio.
to who?
I've turned it in. I've sent it multiple times to Audra and and I'll resend it. I mean,
No, what you did
You
is.
said it's no big deal to convert that to a resume?
I'll try to convert that. But can I just?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what you're asking for my company diversity program advisors is the consultant to CMPA. And they're now, because Councilman Gerald's, and we already know where that is, Councilman Gerald's and Audra want a resume in a certain form. That's fine. But no one has ever requested that of any other contractor, consultant, or person that's ever worked on this job. And so now, because Councilman Gerald's and Miss Audra want to have a resume in a certain form, that I must do that. So if that's what it takes for me to get through this issue, but this is, I mean, my contract is over. If there's a question of my performance or question, let's talk about that. But if what you're talking about is you want a resume so that you can start make it as part of the public record to start, I mean, that's just it's going a little far.
And I'm going to respond, and then I really would like to move on. He's the only program manager. We do not have any background in him at all. And yes, since he mentioned it and brought it up, the issue that we have, Chairman, really is a question of performance. And the Prompt Pay Act has dispute resolution, and none of it says 120 days. These contractors have been paid anywhere from 12 days to 120 days, and I did not want to bring it up here because I didn't want to have this be the forum, but since he brought it up, there is a big problem with his performance. And I did not talk to, nor would I negotiate with any sub of any contractor knowing that it's an issue. I was called last Friday by Rhonda, who's with Affordable Concrete. I've kept a lid on it. I wish I had said something 6 months ago. I'm sorry about it, and now it's out of control. And I have the documentation that she sent me where MHP is trying to take her company and all kind of craziness. So I really like to deal with it in our committee and let the committee deal with it and bring it up here, not vet it and open like this.
Who's trying to take her company?
MHP. And it's not a good thing. That's why I just brought it. I'd rather give it to you. You tell me what to do through Ed Spears. Let's just go back to the committee because it could be all wrong.
All right, well, before we air things that we're not sure of, why don't you do that at your committee?
That's.
Ms. Scott, did you have another comment?
No, I honestly just didn't know what was going on. That's why I was asking, and I can appreciate Ms. Carter asking for it to go to the EBO. But when you bring things out like this, and nobody knows what's going on except one or two people, that's always going to generate some conversation and dialogue that everybody's confused.
Ms. Scott, and I appreciate that. My chair told me, Audra, would you handle it? There are things that we should handle in the EBO.
Yeah,
and George is not giving me the opportunity to do that. He comes out like he is a board member often, and he is an employee of this board. He should allow me as chair to help him and cover him, and he's not doing it. He wants to be heard, and he said something about me and my integrity, doing something that was mess with my credibility. I do not talk to subs. They call me, every one of them, all 5 of them, called me and told me they were having problems with his performance. So,
Ms. Carter,
I don't like that.
Let's stay with it. If you'll do that, give us a report back in April. I appreciate it. Appreciate the work you did. Mr. Brown, and I appreciate you being patient. You're up, sir. Pat Brown.
I just want to say good afternoon to the board, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. If my words are a little slurred, it's because I went to the dentist today, and not because I had an early happy hour, all right? So I feel my jaw kind of moving around. I want to say for the record, working on the project has been a very rewarding experience. Working with HORE as a prime, straight across the board, a lot of good people worked on the project. So in terms of a working relationship, really don't have anything negative to say about it. But one comment that I'm coming here as the owner of a small construction firm is to talk about the pay. That's been the most troubling part of it, getting paid timely and financially it was a burden trying to get through this project. We had 2 contracts. The first contract was as a first-tier sub, which we were out there and we performed quite a bit of the initial site work on the job. The second contract, we were a second-tier sub through Davis Marine, but it's 2 things I want to be sure that's a part of the record. And number one is I want to know what can be done to make sure that some of our retainage is released, because that's 10%. It's quite a significant amount of money that's not in my pocket that I've had to put out to keep things going. The second thing, there's some rework that was done on the job, and I have documentation here about a 1/4 inch thick dating all the way back to last April when this started, saying what we were asked to do, giving field directives. And I just want to be sure I'm getting compensated. I had to figure out a way to make that happen out of my own resources. And here we are at the end of the project. We're still talking about when are you going to get paid for it. So those 2 things, I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of it, and that's the retainage and also the rework that was done on that job that we were given a field directive to do. And I want to be compensated for it.
You had a change order, is that what you, by rework?
And there's also drawings that came out showing us as a sub what to do on the job. It was because of a design issue early on in the process, and based on that design issue, it was not going to work the way it was initially designed.
And I got distracted for a second. What is the problem with the retainage? You're not getting your retainage?
I just want to make sure that we do get it. On some other projects that I've worked on, at some point, you can get 50% of your retainage released. At this point, being all the way at the end of the project, we have gotten none of the retainage.
Are you through with your work at this point?
We're done with the Buckhead. We've, as I said, in the relationship out there, we've done some work with W.R. Johnson on that amphitheater. That's a separate issue. But in terms of the Buckhead, I don't see why some of the retainage can't be released.
So you're through with your work. How much retainage did they take? 10%?
10%.
And you've got 0 back?
I've got none of it at this point. And
I don't know.
That's my concern. And the last thing I just want to point out, again, for the record, so when people leave here, you don't see me stand up here angry and saying everybody's bad over there, because that's not the situation. For the most part, it's been a rewarding experience, but financially, it was tough. I just want to give you some dates to give you an idea. The December 31st payment was received on March 15th. The November 30th payment was received on February the 4th. The November 30th payment was received on January the 17th. So I'm just trying to give you an idea. I've got quite a few here, but that just gives you an idea of the interval of time, even though, as I said, the payments are being made on time. But it should be a process, something in place that's not creating a major financial burden on small companies. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ed?
To explain once again, a payment that's dated December 31st, for example, would have been received by CMPA on January 10th, and then we have the 25-day turnaround process to get it through CMPA's approval, city's approval, and 3 community development entity approvals. We have 25 days by contract, and then that payment would have been made, if we received it in January, would have been paid by January or by February 10th. So if the work was done through the month of December, it's going to take 60 days. But for us, our turnaround has always been 25 days by contract. We've never been a single day late, and most of the times we're a few days early. We did, at the request of Hoare Construction, release Mr. Brown's retainage from his first contract. 100% of that has been released and paid to him, but retainage is what guarantees us completion of this project, and it's a percentage amount, 5 to 10%, that we withhold from every pay request as a guarantee that the work is done, inspected, signed off on as designed and as engineered. And if there have been many instances where if retainage is not withheld, you could be put in a situation if someone walked off the job where you've paid 100%, but the work is not 100% complete. It is your guarantee that the work will be done. Retainage will be paid at the conclusion of the project, as is usual and customary. Mr. Brown and I, we've talked just about every month about this, and we do understand, we do empathize, we do sympathize. This is part of the system of why generally large contractors get government jobs. Number one, you've got to be able to provide the bonding. Number two, you've got to have the financial resources to make it through a funding situation that could be 30 to 60 days long. And small companies typically are at a disadvantage when it comes to having those financial resources. And we completely understand that. But once we've made our payment to Magi Construction and they don't receive lien releases, it is prudent to them, it is wise for them not to pay their subs until they receive the lien releases because they are responsible. And Mr. Brown has stated at the meetings, he would do the exact same thing. He would not pay a sub until he receives his lien releases. And when we've asked Magi about it, they have, as per the contract, told us, quite frankly, to mind our own business because they're their subs. And we encourage them as much as we can to pay timely, but when they say they have not received lien releases, they do not pay. And we cannot disagree with that. And I would also like to point out that under no circumstances do we ever get an invoice where we say, is this a minority contractor or a majority contractor? That is absolutely incendiary to insinuate that we would withhold a payment to anyone. An invoice is invoice. It's black type on white paper. We've paid every single one we've received.
Did you say Mr. Brown had the
His
retainage?
retainage has been released for his first contract. That is correct.
And you've
he
received
is
that?
the only one that has received any
That
retainage.
was the first contract.
That's right.
Just to respond, the initial 60 days when you're working on a project, you understand that to be 60 days. Now, financially, that's not a burden. But after that, it should be every 30 days. It shouldn't be, 40, 45 days or 50 days in between. That's the problem I'm talking about. The initial 60 days is not a problem. And the other thing that impacts that, if someone else in the process doesn't turn in a lien, everyone's impacted. It's not particularly the person. I'm impacted because somebody else doesn't turn in a lien, so that impacts me financially. And then when I have vendors that have to be paid, then I'm paying. I had one invoice that I had to pay $500 because of a late pay. I had to make payroll and different things. So that's what I'm talking about. It's just that whole process. It needs some improvement, but the overall experience, again, is very rewarding.
And I want to add that he's not the only person that has his retainage. George Huey had to wait a year to get his retainage, and he was the first person on the park site doing the grubbing, and it was a real issue with him because one of the things we promised, and we knew this going in, that these minority contractors could not compete at the level, and it has never been resolved, Chairman. Everybody kept saying, well, we can't do anything about it. And when they made the transition to go back to business as usual, which is what every contractor said, hey, that experience was no different than me going to get a job out there. So the covenant doesn't mean anything. We have to take what we know and get better, and that's all I'm asking to do in this situation. We did not do what we said we were going to do and help them with their dollars. We knew that was a problem. The city knew that was a problem, and we never fixed it, the whole project. I hear what you're saying, but as I look at the prompt pay, even in that, the municipality did their job, but each tier is responsible to do the same thing. They're held to the same standard, not to hold or held back or have a sub Senate 2 or 3 times because they need a cash flow. That should have been resolved under our EBO, and it was not. Those subs felt like they did not have anyone to advocate for them. It was HOR telling everybody what they were going to do. And so now the issue is coming out that it wasn't just happening at the end. It has been happening the whole time, which again I asked to deal with in the committee so we could vet it and see if it was true and let these people speak for themselves.
Well, a lot of it's up to the prime in the past of retainage and when they start releasing some of that, depending on what their client says. But I've, like I said, looked at that when we say we got 25 days, and if we can do it in 20, we're doing it in 20. If we can do it shorter, we are. I hear it. We will wait to hear back from you, Ms. Carter. Do you have anything else? Thank you. Last committee, Design Development Committee, Dr. Jones.
You were already given that report.
Thank you, sir. You didn't have anything else?
No, thank you.
Great. Last thing on the agenda is the grand opening. committee, and we've covered that. And committee have anything else? If not, Dottie, you got the last word.
Well, I actually was coming to speak about the topic that I raised my hand on earlier, which you've already skipped. May I go back to that for a moment?
Yes, you may.
I rose in August at the EBO, I believe it was in August, at the EBO committee when there was a suggestion that Mr. Hawthorne's contract be terminated because people who were working on the project were not happy. And I stood in defense of George in that moment because, from my understanding, it was communication issues, it was technicalities, and we had at that point a brief period of time, to move forward, and then it was extended and extended and extended. And I have, as a result of having been at that meeting and risen, become a point of contact for people also. And I send them to Ms. Carter and to individual board members because I do not have the expertise. And although I have done economic development, and I have done labor development, and I have done community enterprise development, and I have done special events development, I do not consider myself expert enough to even suggest to you folks that I would be the person who should be involved with you. And I believe that is one of the issues that has come up and why this resume of Mr. Hawthorne's is as critical as it is. Some of us may have experiences that are very good, and we may have been very good at what we have done, but that does not mean that we have the level of expertise which would be available to craft the very complex support system that we as a community have endeavored to create. At the disparity study meeting, which the city of Pensacola held recently with their subcontractor, there was a gentleman who presented some comments who had been a bonding entity, and he was one of the people who has bonded several of the contractors. And afterwards, I spoke with him because of some suggestions that he made, and he shared with me some absolutely simple mannerisms in which the city and the bonding entity and the subcontractors could have arranged cash flow by contract agreements of partial release of the retainer as different percentages were done. That would have then been through the bonding entity. They would have somehow done it on a credit situation, knowing that the city was holding that retainer instead of the contractors having to pay cash for their bonds. The city retainer would have been pledged as their collateral. Those kinds of creative things that were not explored are where we have failed as a community and with the opportunities here. And the fact that we do not address what is it we have done and what is it we haven't done, but we just keep doing blaming and finger pointing is very disconcerting to all of us who've tried. In all honesty, all of us have done the best we could to try to bring open dialogue and open thinking to how do we make our contractors more able to respond. And I would just encourage you, if someone does not believe they need to follow the system which has been determined by this board, and I sat in a meeting recently when you told Mr. Hawthorne to bring his resume, and he said he couldn't because he was supervising pouring concrete. And I believe you, Mr. Chairman, told him, we'll take the time to do it. That was a month ago. Mr. Hawthorne has now stated that he had already done it and he doesn't have a resume, it's a bio. That was explained before. Mr. Gerald's raised the question because a number of people have gone to City Council with concerns about this and the legalities of city monies being supported without the appropriate documentation that is required being on hand was what I understood was the reason Mr. Gerald's came to this group and asked, let me please get a resume. Now, if there is no legal requirement for a resume on hand for a contract person, then perhaps it was an overreach on Mr. Gerald's part from a legality point, but from a common sense community standpoint, how can we evaluate if we have the best person serving in a position if we don't even know what the real experiences of that person are? Mr. Hawthorne is a really charismatic individual. He has done some very nice things in this community. He can be very generous to things that he is very focused on. And I don't mean in any way for him to take the personal issues that he seems to take every time any of us speak about him. I think we just need to get to an objective point of realizing we as a community have to figure out how do we develop an ongoing commitment to the community possibility that works, because it's quite clear we don't have statistics that count We're playing whatever George's vision of the day is as to whether there's 30%, 40%. I've been in meetings where the numbers change. The first time he said it, we have 1%, and the next time he says it, it's changed. And that's when we ask for empirical data to, document these numbers. This is not about Mr. Hawthorne himself. It's about the process we've engaged in and what is it that this position is supposed to do. And I would strongly urge you to go back and look at what are the real qualifications that we need for the person who's in that position if you are going to carry this forward. And also that if a staff person is directed to do something and they tell this board, I don't want to do it, then maybe they don't want to really be a part of this project. Because it is absolutely something that I would never have been allowed to do in any of the positions, whether it was a federal government, a small business development center, the 3 states that I worked for. If I had told them, I'm not giving you a resume, I would have been giving someone else a resume. So I have all respect for Mr. Hawthorne and his life experiences, but in this particular moment, I believe that this board needs to hold someone accountable to do what they said they were going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. And as I said, I talked to Mr. Hawthorne earlier in the week. He said he provided the information. I hear now that Ms. Carter says she has not gotten the information. And who'd you send it to, George?
I sent bios to Audra and to John Charles when they last made their last inquiry. I returned it back to them, attached my bio again. Now it wants to be in a resume form. If you want a resume form, my contract is over next week. I will work and get you that. But it's just beyond me. Why, if in fact my qualifications were an issue, why in fact are they now an issue now when I did not have a issue when I drafted the EBO agreement?
I understand, and I think Ms. Scott brought that out. I mean, at this point, if you say you're not doing it, you're not doing it. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do. But so I see now when you said you provided the information, you provided a bio, and it's the resume y'all are looking for. And,
Chairman, you can put off anything to the end. He knew this months and months, a year ago when he got the contract. He is simply saying he's not going to do it, and that obstinate should not be acceptable. He is a consultant. We can fire him at any moment. He is there at the pleasure of this board. So if anybody asks for that, it should simply be done humbly, because it was him who called me on Saturday and told me that I had better not be on the wrong side of anything or he would take me down. Now, is that acceptable?
Ms. Carter?
I'm just telling you, this is personal now.
I understand that. You were going to go to your committee and come back with your report, Mr. Hawthorne and others, on April. Mr. Hawthorne, I hear you saying you can provide a resume. Pardon?
I'll draft a resume.
You provide that copy to Ms. Carter.
I'll provide it to Ms. Carter.
Thank you.
Move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Dottie, I'll let you speak if you want to speak. Anything else? Thank y'all again for all your work. We're not going to let this, if it got a little testy here at the end, ruin the moment we're in, which we are a week away from a temporary CO and moving forward with the game. Thank you. We're adjourned.
If the trustee